With the recording being started, everyone, I would ask that everyone practice self-governance in muting themselves with either *6 or hit mute on your phone as we are recording, and we would like a clear recording for anyone that may listen to this session in the future. Thank you for your practice of self-governance, and Charles, I yield.
Thank you, Louis. And this is the general group that is presently proceeding under the name of the Supreme Court of Law for the United States of America. This is the fourth in our series of conferences. This is the evening, 5 p.m. Eastern Time or so, on Saturday, the 1st of August, the year 2000. And I'd like to open briefly with a brief prayer to the champion of truth and justice in the universe, a spirit entity that I believe is, many of us believe is the God of the Bible. And thereunder, just briefly, true God Yahweh Jehovah, we humbly seek your guidance and direction in this effort to advance your kingdom of truth and justice and peace on this earth. And in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Yeshua, we pray these things. Amen. And thereunder, we are seeking truth and justice in manners that harmonize with the laws of the Bible. And that is not just because they're written down in the Bible. It's because after diligent study of those laws, we comprehend how they relate to our American system of constitutional common law as codified in the 7th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And thereunder, this becomes a precise process, a scientifically precise process, due process of law for bringing justice to the grassroots of our common people. And that requires the decentralization of power. And that's why the map that Louis has got up in screen sharing there has been politically subdivided into 12 of what we're calling superstate jurisdictions, so that a jurist, a representative of the conscience of the community of each of these smaller superstate jurisdictions, can come together in General Assembly Council to form a community of consciousness for the entire people of the United States of America, to adjudicate lawfully by due process of law with unanimous jury trial what is in the interest of justice for our organic body politic of people. And this is in bold change and boldly distinguishable from the present system of government and so-called Supreme Court, which is not in any way organically accountable. But yes, because of our studies of the Bible and the deeper principles of common law and constitutional law, we have discovered how to bring justice and truth to the people in more quick and efficient manners than is commonly comprehended by even well-studied patriots. And so we're anxious to share these ideas and to start building communities of responsibly self-governing smaller communities in each of these superstate jurisdictions, and thereunder taking back power and making the de facto system essentially obsolete. We don't have, I should probably stop and catch your breath there. Louis, Abraham, or anybody else have a quick comment or question before we continue on to, I think a good starting point would be a quick review of that hierarchies document that Louis had up there earlier. I will yield for a moment here for comments or questions.
Open floor for any questions regarding the superstate model. And perhaps, Charles, you might want to talk about simply the jury verdict itself and the power of a jury verdict, be it from the superstates or even at the local assembly level.
Yeah.
I yield.
And thank you, Louis. And that's a good prompt, and I think it might be good to go even one step further and talk about the broader issue that we've touched on before about the hologram and the DNA code, and how once you comprehend this process, it can apply at all levels of government, because it's about consensus building amongst the constituent members of each of these community assemblies. And they're under the jury trial process that Lewis referenced. That everybody should know that real common law requires unanimous jury verdicts from the 12 members of the jury, and that forces the community to be disciplined in hearing everybody's legitimate, well-reasoned arguments and purging. This is where the problem is. We don't have any mechanism in normal society for purging out the goofball ideas or the subversive ideas. But when you have to arrive at a unanimous verdict or form some kind of a consensus, then you've got to address all of the dissenting opinions and either compromise with them in an honorable manner, which is the optimal solution, or else you're going to have to start questioning somebody's qualified elector status that is just in there making trouble. And you do have problems with that on occasion. There are people that like to do that. In the version of the rules that I was typing up before I ran out of time here, I was actually referencing the COINTELPRO FBI operation, where they purposefully send in agents that are not here to try to help make America a better place. They're here to obstruct our ability to form our own responsibly self-governing communities. They're destroyers. They're not builders. And so we need to be able to force the consensus as common law due process requires, and when you decentralize it down to the local communities enough, like the original Exodus 18 model requires and true common law requires, then that consensus building process starts at the grassroots of the heads of the households in the township community, and it progresses all the way up to 12 super states like what we're talking about here for the entire United States of America. And they're under, it's a hologram. Once simple people can comprehend it, like riding a bike or something, just watching somebody doing it for a while, then you can get a feel for it and you can go ahead and do it yourself. So they're under, yeah, I'll pause for comments or questions here again.
Well, again, this is a open forum for full discussion, question and answer. So no one is muted on the call. And everyone, if you, well, I guess this would be a good time to indicate that Charles was working on a proposed general set of group rules, as was requested by multiple participants on last week's call. He did not have an opportunity, as he indicated, to complete that general set of rules. So as such, for this particular call, the rules that will be in place are very simple. And that is, number one, we'd like to stay on topic, one topic at a time, one question at a time, and one speaker at a time. The floor is gained by stating, "May I," or "If I may," no other phrases will be recognized. We also ask that you conclude your statement or question with "I yield," simply so that we know that you are yielding the floor. Once a caller has been recognized, the speaker has been granted the floor, quote unquote, and may not be interrupted by another caller. We also ask that everyone keep comments respectful and substantive. Abusive, insulting, or extreme language will not be tolerated, nor will any personal attacks on others. Personal remarks in debate are always out of order. Factual accuracy is a must. This group is for substantive discussion. Facts and evidence are a must. Valid sources only. And we also ask that everyone trust every statement, but verify. Again, trust, but verify. Trust as fact, as stated here, but then please verify all information. Treat the platform with respect. You are expected to address your allies and opponents alike with dignity, fairness, and respect. Lastly, support an environment of intelligence and respect. I did have a question, and that would be for Charles. Are we going to use motions on this call? And if not, how would we proceed forward with any action? With that, I yield.
I don't see any problem with people making motions as long as we've got responsible people such as yourself and myself in control here, Louis. We can throttle any type of problems that might accompany formal motions.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing. I yield.
This is David, if I may.
David.
David in Michigan. I wanted to first say hi to Nikki. And then also, since we got an open floor here and nobody brought up an agenda or a topic, I was wondering if we might address the possibility of a banking system of putting in claims with amounts attached and start banking our claims in hopes that we may develop a remedy in commerce that enough people believe in that we might be able to start working our way into an exchange of currency. I yield.
If I may, David, and good to hear you. Welcome, and I appreciate you participating on the call, and I, of course, will yield to Charles. But within the invite, there were probably 1, 2, 3, 4 documents in terms of an agenda, starting with the organic hierarchies document, the notice of the formation of responsibly self-governing communities, PDF, the selected citations affirming and supporting the right of our common people to form our own smaller and responsibly self-governing communities, and lastly, a document that actually can be used by all on this call once fully comprehended, which is the constructive and, I'm sorry, that is an opinion, regarding the constructive and public notice to all government office holders at all levels of government within the geographic boundaries of our people's constitutionally lawful and de jure United States of America. These documents also deal with many of the issues that have been expressed by participants on other calls, such as dealing with forced vaccinations and many of the issues that are taking place right now. So, with that said, this call does have an agenda. However, that is excellent for any future calls. Moving forward. And with that, I would yield to Charles for any additional comments or even corrections of my statements. I yield.
Thank you, Louis, if I might. And thank you, David. No doubt the economics issue is of critical importance, and it is worthy of discussion, perhaps a bit later in this conference after our formal discussion has become less formalized and more completed. And to briefly touch on that, the economics, I believe, will flow through and as the source of our economics, the source of the alternative economic system that I believe common law and biblical Torah law mandate is from the grassroots of the community, and before they can that start issuing that credit debt-based commercial source of economic exchange currency, they need to become organized. So I think our first step is to continue focusing on the agenda, like what Louis pointed out here, of organizing our communities into our separate states. And in favor of what you're saying there, David, we've already got the power to issue our own currency. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, it's quite clear that if I issue you a promissory note and you go to pay your utility bill with my promissory note, then that bill that utility bill is discharged. Now, our problem is not with an alternative form of currency because we've already got it. It's that simple. Hartford has spelled this out real clear in times before us. I'm sure you know, David. But our problem is with the corrupted judiciary, and they just flat are not going to respect our rights to alternative economic systems until we get organized and begin chipping away at their monopoly over the judicial power. I believe that's what the situation we're facing with regard to the economics, and I do believe we're going to produce some powerful changes here real soon in that economic realm. But I do believe it's also going to happen at the same time in parallel with our empowering our responsibly self-governing common law jurisdiction communities. I yield.
Thank you
David?
much. Yeah,
okay.
You.
Okay. Thank you. I see one other on this board, and I would like to invite just for any comment. And I'm really exhibiting my mother's traits at this point and pulling people in who have not stepped up. But I see we have Brad on the call of Massachusetts. Brad, would you like to comment on anything that was just, since we're talking about monetary systems, on this particular comment? Would you like to add anything to this discussion that has just taken place?
Sure, I'll take a stab. Thanks, Louis. And for everybody's information, Louis and I have had several conversations and several meetings on monetary issues. And for those of you that may or may not know, I don't know the group that I'm speaking with, but Louis is extremely well-versed in cryptocurrency, and I have enjoyed many conversations with him. He's a quite intelligent man. So for those, I'm pretty new to these talks. I have spent many hours trying to discover a way to bring forward a new currency. We have designs for a new currency in my group, and let me just clarify what group I'm part of. I believe everybody here would know me as a member of the original, I use this term loosely, leaders that has put together Beacon 37. I have disavowed the term leader, and I have and the group known as Beacon 37 no longer operates under that name. My current activities would include talks with as many groups as I can converse with. I believe that at this point in time, where things are headed and at the rate that they're headed, it would be very I don't know the word that I want to use, but I have been speaking with leaders of several groups, trying to get all the really committed people on this subject together, so that we might together come up with some type of a solution, or be able to come up with larger groups quicker, because there's a lot of people around this country trying to do the same things that we're talking about at this very moment, and I think that all of us getting together might be a better option than all of us working separately. I suppose I'll stop with that. I yield.
Okay. Thank you, Brad, for that. And I know I just called you out there. That's why I referenced my mother, who has a tendency to do that with some of our calls. I appreciate Brad bringing where he is up in some of our conversations, because this call, and then I'm going to yield to Charles for any immediate feedback, is about, in my opinion, as my comprehension, bringing together all of the groups and any of the private people existing in their proper capacity, willing to maintain their status as qualified electors, no matter of any other group. So whether, Brad just mentioned the group formerly known as Beacon 37, now the Republic with a K. There may be members on this call of the National Assemblies group. There may be members of this call of the Nation States group. I don't know of the group, what the actual name is of the Hannah Von Wright group and the other groups such as Stetry, but that matters not. That matters not, which is why I keep going back to, or keep bringing back to the screen, the superstates model, and those that are knowledgeable and are private people on the land and that are willing to step up and participate, that we may come to some consensus that we are able to move forward with the intent of the protection of the people on the land. And so I don't want to get into details or specifics regarding one group or another, because that matters not on this call. So thank you, Brad. I know that you probably didn't have in your any intentions on speaking on tonight's call, and that I kind of called you out on that. So I appreciate your participation, because we have had these conversations, and ultimately these are the conversations that we will have to partake in at not only the local level, but the state level, and ultimately the national level, in terms of forming a more perfect union moving forward. So with that, I yield. Charles.
Thank you, Louis. And thank you, Brad. I'd like to point out that Brad is, I believe, yes, I think the word leader is appropriate there for Brad's role in the Beacon 37 Republic group. And this prompts us, I really work a lot better by responding to issues raised by others rather than just trying to pontificate by myself. The issue that, and Louis made it even sharper by referencing the qualified electors in his response to the issues that Brad raised here. And actually, I got motivated last night to put that on my list of the agenda that I was going to compose that I never got composed. The qualified electors issue, a real good thing that we could start doing right here and now would be to certify on this public forum, in this court of record. This is a court of record. We are in session, and it's being recorded. And at this point, I'm willing to testify that certain people, in my judgment before God, I'm accountable for these people, Certain people are qualified electors. They're honorable men before God. They love justice and truth, and they distaste, they dislike, they reject evil and oppression and opportunism. This is the criteria. This is the qualifications necessary to be an elector, aka a constituent of a responsibly self-governing body politic. And they're under, I would like to, and I'll probably do more than this as time goes on, and maybe even in this conference, but I'd at least like to certify Lewis Hammond and Abraham Duran and David Scheib and probably a few others. As qualified electors. And once anybody has an official recording of two other people certifying him as a qualified elector, like I've just done for these few here, and there's no challenges. See, everybody's subject to accountability for their qualified elector status if they might abuse it, and they're in debate when things get heated and stuff, and the rules of procedure. Somebody may be speaking abusively of somebody else. Is there just cause to be speaking of this person? Are they a COINTELPRO subversive that deserves to be confronted, or is this just clearly disrespectful abuse that the individual talking is not being a qualified elector? He's not proceeding with required respect and peaceable consensus-building behavior that is necessary in order for responsibly self-governing communities to maintain. And a lot of the things that we talk about in this conference are just theoretical, but if we might prompt Lewis or Abraham or David Scheib or any of the others to say, well, I know people that I trust in the Patriot movement here that I'm willing to certify as qualified electors. And some of the other conferences, they do real lengthy roll calls and things like this. I think much more productive than roll calls would be opening at least a formal portion. It doesn't have to be every session, but at least formally declaring, giving opportunities for people to formally declare that they hold others as they recognize others as being qualified electors, and they're willing to certify it, at least verbally on the phone here. And again, when that is done, you're no longer, that breaks the de facto municipal judicial presumption that you're a 14th Amendment slave, because you can cite the evidence that you're a qualified elector. You got two witnesses. That's biblical Torah law and it's common law due process. I can see in the front gate that escapes you, and it's much simpler than filing a lot of the paperwork with so-called correct your status. At that point, I'd like to ask Lewis briefly, and Abraham and David Scheib and a few others to volunteer, to step forward and maybe just briefly certify a few people that you think are qualified electors. Anybody willing to jump on that one? I yield.
Well, this is Lewis of Michigan, if I may.
Yeah.
I would probably suggest that you discuss the qualified elector status to those on this call. And also, one thing that I would touch on is that many of the groups that are actively participating in re-inhabiting and re-establishing the original jurisdiction of the Republic might be looking for, and this might be an opinion piece, critical mass, certain numbers to be obtained. And with the super states model and the jury verdict precedents, critical mass or a certain number is not necessarily or may not necessarily be a requirement
to move forward. But we've got something in terms of a jury verdict that may be applicable right now to every man and woman throughout the territories and free and independent states. Is that something that you might want to discuss, what that is, and in fact that these mass numbers may not be necessary? I yield.
Thank you, Louis. Yeah, that's a bit of a shift from my focus on qualified electors, but that's good. That's healthy. And yes, I don't know if you still have the copy of the jury verdict that I composed in response to this coronavirus pandemic thing. If you might be able to find that and bring it up in screen share, that might be a good thing to share there. But briefly describe what we're doing there. I think most of the attendees.
I didn't want to divert the topic. So if you feel that is off topic, I would prefer much prefer to remain on topic. If at this point what you're asking was to a certification of other qualified electors,
yeah.
Was that just for a restatement and just to focus? Because I don't want to divert attention. If that was
okay. Well, thank you, Louis. I think my mind is already geared to kind of merge the two issues. This is part of, in my response on the rules, your version was talking about one subject at a time, and there are times where two subjects can kind of be merged to play together, to work with each other, build an even more powerful system. And like you're saying, the jury verdicts that we're talking about forming are dependent upon people maintaining qualified elector status. And it may sound like a superficial focus with intellectual egghead type of stuff, but if you look in the U.S. Constitution document about how the president is supposed to be elected, normal people don't get to vote on that. It's voted on by the electors. And that concept of electors is rooted in our common law tradition, townships, and precincts.
If I may, just for a moment, Charles, David,
sure.
We're getting some feedback. So if you can either utilize *6 to mute, and once again *6 to unmute yourself, or mute on your phone, that would be helpful as Charles speaks. We're getting some feedback from your line. Thank you, sir. Charles?
I was I'd like to put myself into the queue to respond after Charles is finished. Thank you.
Okay. Noted. You're first in response after Charles concludes.
All right. Thank you. And so the technology that we're talking about here is going to deeper common law roots, which are not thoroughly explained in the Constitution or most documents that talk about it, because the entire universe around us, like the Bible rather talks about, the Babylonian whore and things like that, and the beast, they're all under the Roman Empire model of government. So, and even in common law tradition, most scholars on common law have succumbed to adulterated versions of what the common law is really all about. If you really look into the biblical roots of it, it's much more empowering than what the Orthodox traditions tend to indicate, and this is reflected in the fact that electors are the ones that decide who is the office of the U.S. president. they had to put that in there. It was the only way the Constitution could colorably claim to be a lawful document. So we've got immense power at our fingertips, and documents are being composed as we speak. We briefly traverse to the issue of the coronavirus jury verdict document that we're also working on, that I expect to hopefully have finished in a composed form by next week's conference here, and that should assist us in coming together around real tangible issues. But thereunder, I think I've kind of filled in some blanks. I think David Scheid from Michigan there requested the floor to kind of raise an issue probably related to this. At that point, I yield.
Thank you, Charles. David, you've got the floor.
Yes. I've got some names to add. I've been spending quite a bit of time in coming up with different lists, and you just stop me whenever you want, and I'll go ahead and add to what I believe would be qualified list electors. Karen Biddy, David Lanier, Pauline Holton, John Holton, Ed Nassar, Cliff Stafford, Mary Stafford, Ted Visner, Keith Wood, David Chandler, Karen Stevens, Jan Pachnick, Ron Keller, Matthew Pung, Andrew Oanga, Larry Wise, Tom Green, Mark Baker, Doug Moore, John Funk, Greg Adkins, Jody White, Rob Stano.
Hey, David, can we get these people on the call?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Abraham, if please allow David to complete his statement in its entirety.
He offered we can interrupt him at any time, so I asked him a question.
I will stop. I will yield at this point with Rob Stano.
It sounds like a very good, comprehensive list. Is there a way we could get these people onto the call so that we can become familiar with them? Because if you're already comfortable with them, that sounds like it would be easier for us to be familiar with them. Can we get them on the call at some point?
That sounds like a different topic. I was trying to stick with the one topic here of the names.
Thank you.
Qualified elector status, right?
That's correct.
But
okay.
if I might.
So, Abraham, if you could hold that just until David concludes with his reading of his qualified electors list, you will have. Yes.
Yeah, look, may I'm kind of apprehensive that David's list here might be quite long. There's two ways of dealing with that. Either we can ask David to submit it formally, and we can post it on the webpage real soon here, and hopefully under David's solemn affirmation before God and everybody that he sincerely believes that these people are qualified electors. And especially if David's got the list all written up that he sounds like it does, that's evidence that people can that are certified as qualified electors through David and at least one other, they can point to on a web page rather than having to search through a recording here. But I would like to ask David if people in attendance on the call here, if he can kind of cherry pick from his list there, if he knows anybody on the call here that he's willing to certify as a qualified elector, so that in this forum we can proceed by presuming that certain people are qualified electors and other people we're still trying to figure out. David? I yield.
That is affirmative. However, as a couple people know here anyway, I have become an acquired quad amputee, and I'm not always going to appease everybody that wants to see things in writing from me. And when we have the availability of recording something verbally that is quite an accommodation for me, I make a preference in doing it in a way that provides me with that convenience. Now, once things are recorded, not only can you get a recording of that, like we are doing right now, but you can also use a recording with speech-to-text technology, and take those recordings and have transcripts of that. So there's multiple ways to do it without compelling me as a disabled individual to provide things in writing myself and do the labor for that. I yield.
And if I may, Lewis of Michigan, be it that I recognize many of the names on David's list, he was at the S alphabet. There was not a lot to be, received from this point, and I agree with actually making a verbal record of his list of qualified electors, and I honestly did not take the disabled status into account, but the fact that we had the ability to make a verbal record. And as such, if he would be allowed to conclude, I do not believe that it would be any type of time restraints or constraints on the other members. Again, we were at the S alphabet of his qualified elector list alphabetically. So with that, I yield.
Continue.
That sounds good. I presume, David, you are close to the end. Why don't you go ahead and finish if you're close to the end there?
Well, I'm sorry, Lewis, but I wasn't going alphabetically. I was going recollect. But I can answer your previous question about are there people on the call here. So if you let me continue, I'll go ahead and continue with Doreen Hendrickson, Jan Daniels, Ed Kotke, Denise Kotke, Barbara Willing, Brian Wright, Camille McMillan, Dan Goebel, David Matthews, David Nagy, Don Getze is his last name, Dwayne Ware, Earl Hookward, Greg Groninger, Jason Goodwill, John Tater, Lewis Hammond, Lorraine Wallace, Mark Kornke, Nancy Kornke, Martin Prin, Charles Stewart, Ron Stokes, Nikki Hannabig, Tim Trikes, Tony Parton. I can probably Arnie Rosner, Bill Scheidler, Dennis Lawrence, Michael Badnarik, Emma Hammond, Kamala L. I think John Lutke. And I think I got a few more, but I'll have to check those out. So I'm going to go ahead and yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you, David. if I might. I think in future reference, and that is a good start. But I think in future reference, we should try to keep it more tightly focused on the certifying the people that are in the conference, at least at these early informal stages. Maybe at the later end or in a separate call, we can make a supplementary verbal witness testimony. I'll be glad to make myself available for that. And we can record these more lengthy lists of qualified electors, and we can make it part of the public record of the court here. But I think when we've got large group discussions that are focused on trying to learn the process for tangible grassroots empowerment, that going through long lists of potential qualified electors, well, testimony of qualified elector status, I do think it's not the best use of our time and energy. The list could obviously get very long, and we could end up having the whole conference just being nothing but list readings. So I appreciate David priming the pump this way, but I think at least at these early stages, we should just limit the testimony to people that seem to be on the conference or directly known by us. And yeah, I would yield at that point. I yield. I guess.
Okay. Did we have any other comments or contributions? If not, Charles, I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. And at that point, I think we need to be discussing again the related issue that from two different angles that Lewis has touched on: the jury verdicts generally and how they're seriously empowering to us, and the one that we've typed up for the current situation with the coronavirus. Speaking more generally, the vast majority of judicial process that is coming against us and railroading us out of our constitutionally guaranteed rights is administrative, it's municipal, it's de facto, it's an inferior form of jurisdiction. But when one looks at the wording of the Seventh Amendment, well, to back up a little bit, Article 3, which governs the United States judiciary, says that the United States Supreme Court and their inferior courts have not only jurisdiction, their jurisdiction extends to cases in law, which is common law jurisdiction. They have the ability to become a common law court. Their jurisdiction extends to that. And perhaps that's not precise wording. They don't really have it. They have jurisdictions similar to a common law court. They're not really common law jurisdiction. But they're under. Article 3 says they've got administrative, they've got admiralty, maritime, and equity jurisdiction in addition to their ability to proceed at law. And all of what is coming against us under administrative process and things is that lower level of law. The wording of the Seventh Amendment clearly indicates that when we the people bring together juries, this is the key. This is where the rubber meets the road, is through the juries. When we bring together juries and they follow due process of law to produce a unanimous verdict, then according to the the Seventh Amendment of the United States Constitution, all of the administrative equity admiralty maritime process is irrelevant. It's null and void. The only way that the Supreme Court or the other courts of the United States of America have authority to challenge the conclusiveness of our jury verdicts is if they follow, quote, the rules of the common law, unquote, in a more efficient manner than we did. Like if we didn't have a unanimous verdict and we claimed it's a common law verdict, they could challenge us on that or other procedural violations. But rules of common law are fairly simple once you comprehend them, and so it's at our fingertips to shut down as a matter of law. You know, we still got problems with enforcement, but as a matter of law, we've got the authority to shut down the entire corrupted federal court system and force them to only proceed according to the rules of the common law as the Seventh Amendment indicates. And the entire military police state that we're presently functioning under this coronavirus declaration is all under that equity admiralty maritime jurisdiction. That's not common law due process. People have rights, and common law due process respects that. But they're getting away with it because we're not raising the bar by assembling our own jury verdicts. And a similar situation exists with the state courts, and it's going to continue to be abusing us unless we start organizing our own communities and start producing our own unanimous 12-member jury verdicts and informing them that these issues have already been decided by due process of law, and their emergency war powers military police state jurisdiction is not applicable within our precincts and our counties and our other local communities. So I'm really enthused about the power that's at our fingertips here. I'm looking forward to completing even more of the documents other than the good ones that Lewis is already displaying here. And at that juncture, I'll yield again for comments and questions. I yield.
Bravo.
Sure. Any comments or questions? I heard Abraham. Was that Abraham there?
It was a mystery speaker. Just bravo. If I think if more people were more familiar with what Charles has stated and can start moving along those lines, we would actually be having more people on the field, so to speak, and would be able to keep the ball, you know, in their court. So we could score some points and some touchdowns. For God's sake, can we score some points somewhere?
This
is Nancy. Am I allowed to ask a question?
This is an open floor discussion, Nancy, of course. You've got the floor.
Okay. I was wondering if there's a way to check to see if what Charles is talking about doing has already been started. I've seen things in court I've never seen before.
So you've seen these things in court that you've never seen before?
I went with a friend.
Can she restate the question? I don't understand it.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if what Charles is talking about doing has already started to take place. I went with a friend to court, 36th District in Detroit, big, huge court. Normally, the judge comes in, everybody rises, she's in her robe or he's in his robe. They do the gravel and they announce and all that. The last few times I went with her, we get into the courtroom, the judge is not there. So when she comes in, she puts, she's behind a screen. Never been a screen in the court before. She's behind the screen. She gets up on behind the bench and she stands there. She does not sit down. She doesn't use the gravel. They don't announce her. All they do is give a case number. When she's done, and this, we had done a few of the private things with the remedy on the case. So she leaves the courtroom, she comes back in, and she sits down and she starts the next case, and they do their announcement and all that. Another time she comes in, same judge, more of the private documents submitted. She's behind a screen, she puts on a robe, but she does not sit down, and she does not get up on her bench at all. Third time we go in, she's standing in front of her bench. No announcement. I mean, you don't see this stuff anywhere. Is it possible that someone has filed documents like Charles has filed and is working on, that it has disrupted? I'd never seen this stuff before, and if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't have believed it. And there were other courtrooms where the judge did not even go into the court. The rooms where the attorneys go is where the judge was seeing the cases. Does anybody know? Is there a way to find out?
Abraham, Nevada, I would imagine there are multiple parallel processes being experimented on throughout the entire nation, perhaps even throughout the world. But I don't know that anybody has a coherent attempt that has put forward trying to do it as comprehensively as Charles is proposing to do it, because if they were, we would know about it.
How would we know?
Oh, that's a good question. You don't think these people, if they, yeah, do you want to take a stab at that, Louis? You're better at this than I am.
If I may. This is David. I only wanted to just say that being somewhat familiar with many other stories about the 36th District Court in Detroit, that is a crime syndicate operating under disguise by judicial usurpers. And that this is probably just another tactic being used to get away from, being true to what the law says. So I yield.
Thank you,
Okay,
David. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, I have seen documents submitted to the Supreme Court. In various other courts. The document that I got from you for the COVID isn't like what I've ever seen before, so I'm having trouble figuring out how to format it because I'm not familiar with how it should be formatted in the private. I have seen stuff from Superior Court, which is sort of a cross between public and private. That's how some states handle private court cases. I was wondering if I could get some help because there's a huge amount of information in your documents, and I wanted to put it into a format where people will, when they read it, they can zoom in on what they're looking for. Because that's a really heavy read. So,
if I may,
can I get some help with the formatting and explanation of why this is like this and this is like that?
If I may?
Oh,
Nancy?
yes, go ahead, sorry.
Yes, I think for the record, to clarify a little bit, people might be confused. The documents you're referring to are documents that I've composed and shared with a few other people here, and it's regarding my previously mentioned juror verdict, model juror verdict, in regard to the coronavirus pandemic and forced vaccinations and all that kind of stuff that we're presuming to start adjudicating here. And they're under, I'm still working on composing the complaint, as I think that also reflected. It needs to come together as a package. So it's still in process. And I've got some unique views on public and private that differ with respected scholars like Lewis. And so some of my ideas are rather innovative and unorthodox and maybe even problematic. But I need to finish composing what I've got here, and then we can discuss the larger issues that you are raising. And it sounds like you're similar to Lewis in thinking that public is always bad. Please correct me if I err as I yield the floor, but for the time being, in a real organic American constitutional law, common law is public law. But what our problem is with, for justifiably being apprehensive about that phrase public law and public jurisdiction, is because it's all de facto. It's all Roman Empire municipal public. And that's where the problem is coming in. When we start moving into administer public law through common law due process for everybody, then that's going to displace the de facto Roman Empire municipal public law. It will convert it to de jure organic grassroots people's public law.
Charles, I think what she's... Okay, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
Charles,
my
I think
view
what she's saying is that would you be available?
Abraham, if you would go ahead and let Nancy conclude, and then we'll go ahead with Abraham's your response.
It was a 5-second interjection. Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, I've got paralegal background, and I think that public law now is fake law. And I also believe that if they screw something up in public law, I think you should cram it down their throat in public law. But I also think that Superior Court appears to be a cross between public and private. Just like a notary has the ability to operate between public and private. So what I wanted to do was take the document and put it in 3 forms. What I think is public, what I think is private, and what I think that people can carry around with them to temporarily combat the junk that's going on with the masks, the vaccines, the chips, and all the other stuff. Thank you.
If I may, 2 things. First, we've had a caller just join us, last 4 digits, 4601. Greetings. Would you like to introduce yourself?
This is Mike in Charlotte County, Florida. Hello, everyone.
Greetings, Mike, Florida. Okay, thank you, sir. And Nancy, I think that what you have just mentioned, what you like to do with the document, do it. And then bring it forward and present it. And, for any constructive criticisms, and you can present it with why you feel it might be a strength for anyone within our group. So I do not want to, discourage you creating something that you think might be of potential usage to anyone on the call.
Spin her wheels without conference. So my suggestion is, I think she was asking Charles if he would have the time to consult and confer with her on some of her ideas. I think it was as simple as that. Am I correct? If Charles made himself available to discuss these nuances with you, would you find that the kind of help that you're seeking?
Probably, and I have discussed things with him before. I'm having trouble finding what is supposed to be a private format for creating documents, because there's a format for public documents. There's a format that's almost identical for Superior Court documents. I don't know how to look up anything for creating documents in a private format, because what I wanted to do was have it in all three versions so that we can use this however we need it.
Makes perfect sense. Charles, would you be available so that you guys could troubleshoot that one?
Thank you for providing focus here, Abraham, but I'm not inclined to move in that direction until I get the basic document and completed. And I think at that point we can not only address Nancy's concerns, but we can address everybody's concerns.
Yeah, because I sure do like the idea of having something pocket-sized that when they try to insist you have a mask, you just pull it out and say, here's your mask. You want a $250,000 lawsuit? So she's got a point there.
I'm working on that.
Well, if I may, Nancy, if I may, just based upon what you said, you were suggesting presenting your version of that document for markup to all. Was that not what you were suggesting?
Sort of. I need to understand how documents are created and formatted in the private. I know that there's a redemption manual, and there's different versions of it, but there's nothing about creating documents in the private. That
okay, if I may, just at that point, because this is a very important point. In the private, you create the document, and it's the public that looks to a template.
Yes.
Let me state that again. In the private, you are creating the document. In the public, you look towards a template. So what you're asking, Nancy, I would ask you to produce and not look towards an outside source to produce for you. Very, very directly. Because that's where I believe that the public and the private gets confused.
May I?
It is the public that looks towards created templates with certain regulations. You need to be 2.5 inches from your margin from the top, 2 inches from the bottom. The margins on the side need to be a particular width, and things need to be of a certain font. Okay, that is not the action of a sovereign being, in my opinion. We do not look to regulations in the public forum in creation of our documents where we need to communicate a particular action. We, in fact, establish those forms. And perhaps, forgive me all on this call, if that is a certain position of arrogance, but that is how I see matters with in relationship to the corporation that is to provide services. With that, I yield for any feedback or any
This is
comment.
David. I had asked, may I?
Somebody wants
I only had to piggyback the fact that in the public, they want us always to utilize their forms and do things according to their forms, and they stay within those forms. But in fact, those forms are constructed in such a way that they can be used as weapons against us in the private. So when we try to comply with their forms, then we are putting ourselves into their sandbox, so to speak, and where they can basically bury us. I yield.
If I may?
Okay.
David. Before Nancy, you comment. I heard it. If I may, who was that?
That's Scott, New York.
Scott, New York, and then Nancy. Then you will have the floor. Scott, New York, you got the floor.
Yes, I'm very intrigued by what this Nancy woman just said. Now, being a paralegal, she's coming from the private side, so she doesn't know. She's really onto something. It may yield another call, maybe get her a guest on some other groups that I'm part of. I think she's really onto something there. That's the most difficult part, that they wind up making you a sovereign citizen type, fool, take advantage of you. Because the Trading with the Enemy Act, you cannot mix public and private. They never do. And they have 35,000 ways to trick us into crossing those lines. She is onto something here. Do not discredit that woman. I yield. Okay, will be to be continued. I'll suggest some other things.
Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution, Scott. Let me clear up anything. I do not in any way discredit anything that Nancy has said. So please, if anyone has misconceived that as or interpreted that as my response, not at all. And Nancy and Nancy, I hope, would be aware of that. She is a part of the Michigan Assembly, and I know that what she speaks of is the intent is to the benefit of the private. So I just wanted to clear that up. So with that, I yield. Nancy, you've got the floor.
Thank you. Okay, two things. The first one is, it sounds like you're trying to tell me that this is the same thing, that when you go into a court, you're operating off of your law. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're saying, it's okay? Whatever your document, whatever you're saying.
Is that a question to Charles regarding this? Oh.
It's for you and Charles, because both of you said something similar, and that was what came into my mind. So that would help a lot.
Restate it again, if you would, please. Thank you.
Okay. I went into court one time, and the judge has given me a hard time. So
just the proposition. Just the proposition, the summary.
So, okay. So what I did was I said, since you have corrupted the law so badly, God says that because I'm the one in the right, it's my law, and you have to do what I say. I was really mad. And he was threatening me with contempt and all this other junk. So later I read something, I think it was from Rourke, where it said something about when you're in court, it's your law, it's God's law, it's not the judge. Is that what you're saying, that whatever you write in your document is okay? You don't have to have any format?
If I may?
Format. Yes, Charles, go ahead. You've got the floor.
It's not whatever I write in the document. It's what the jury agrees to. Once I get this rough draft completed, it will be modified through the consensus building process of the jury. It's not any one of us as individuals. It's the jury is where the horsepower, where the consensus, where the conscience of the community comes from. I yield.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then this is where I want to see if we can take it. Since the United States is already in bankruptcy, how about if we do a countersuit with involuntary bankruptcy against the courts? We've been damaged. They're trying to force things on us. So we're going to counter-complaint against them, and with this document to the Supreme Court or to our court, we ask them to, okay, this is what you've done to us, now pay us. And you have to have 3 people that total 20 or 25,000 in damages to do an involuntary bankruptcy. And I
if I may, Charles, before you respond to that, Nancy, if I may ask you one question. Have you had an opportunity to review the 4 PDFs attached with the invite?
Yes, a little bit. Are they the same ones as last week? We're picking up on the 4 from last week.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, and I saw a similarity between them. So there's a focus. There's something going on outside. There is a focus. There is a focus on the documents. They have a similarity. And that was, that's part of what's confusing me, because I thought they were for different things.
Okay, Charles, do you want to address that? Because that's what, would we, or bring anyone's attention to a particular document. Nancy has brought forward that you were thought, repeat that, Nancy, you thought they were for different things?
Yes. Yes, I thought they were supposed to be for different things, but they have a similar format, and they have things in common.
Well, if I may.
Oh, yes, you got the floor.
Okay. The documents are designed to work together. The main constructive notice of treason document informs the de factos how they're proceeding unlawfully. The remedies document explains how government is supposed to be harmonious with the rules of the common law as the 7th Amendment mandates. And so they work together. We're dismantling the de factos as we're putting together the de jure, the organic. And so it's designed to be a painless transition, nonviolent, like what Michael and I were talking about in previous discussions from Florida there. Excellent discussion. We need to de-escalate and confront the de factos in a manner that reduces the potential for bloodshed. That's a critically important thing. And so, yes, the documents are different, but they're designed to work together. And I'm of the firm belief that a lot of good people are really goofed up on their comprehension of public versus private, especially their Pardon me?
Yes, absolutely.
You're
right.
And a lot of people in our movement are thinking public is always de facto. And they don't comprehend that we can move into the public side. For example, the 7th Amendment, de factos aren't supposed to be doing anything that violates the higher law, the rules of the common law. They're not supposed to be doing that, but they're doing it all the time because they're not respecting the organic, the higher law of the organic law. That's the difference between public and private. Common law is public. It applies to everybody, including de factos.
If I may. See, this is where, if I may, Charles.
Yeah, Lewis, go ahead.
Right here is where we have an issue. When I utilize the verbiage of public, I'm talking specifically to a public trust that was established in 1933. We don't have to talk about abstract entities. The public at this time, when dealing with the de facto, you're talking about a public trust which was established in 1933. We don't have to speculate, on anything. We know exactly what it is. So the public that we talk about when we're in the private side, and we're talking public within the private side, is a completely different thing than the public trust created by the New Deal. The New Deal, specifically. That
sounds right.
is the public, is that when I say the public of the de facto, it is specifically the public trust created by the New Deal of 1933 and none other. I yield.
Okay. I think it would serve to clarify if you could broaden out the terminology there by saying de facto public so that there's no confusion with the more organic grassroots common law public.
Can I give you my definition of private and public?
Well, Nancy, if you know what, I will hold it to the constraints that of our on the call today, which is valid sources only and trust but verify. And I know that everything that I've stated on this call today can be verified. So I don't look to opinion, but information that can be verified lawfully or legally. It's somewhere in writing prior to my existence. And if it stays within that realm,
yes.
Please bring it forward. I yield.
Okay. Mine's real short. Anything that's private is spiritual level, and anything that's public is on a physical level. And the spiritual level reigns supreme over the physical, and that's in the Bible.
Okay.
But you don't have to disagree. That's okay. Thank you.
Brad on Massachusetts.
Brad. Brad?
Do I have the floor?
Can bring forward. Yes, I hear you, Brad, and you've got the floor. And then I'd like to hear, if any, response from Charles and then Nancy. I yield.
Okay, I can speak about my past visit to their court, where they shut down the courtroom. The judge would not enter. They removed the flags from behind the podium. They brought in a magistrate. They brought in a special bailiff for the clerk. And how that all happened was I sent them documents that they were using my trust without my permission. Are they willing to accept liability for the use of my trust? We in the statutory court, we are the surety for everything that they do in that courtroom. I'm going to give you a law that allows you to remove yourself from being the surety for anything and everything that you've ever done. That would be 27 CFR 19.171.
Please repeat that once again, Brad. CFR, go ahead.
27 CFR, Codified Federal Regulations, 19.171. We are the sureties, and we have the right to remove ourselves from the liability of those bonds that have been created to run that courtroom we have the right to remove our liability from those bonds at any time we wish, merely by writing a letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I've got that on the screen for any of those that are doing screen sharing. And one of the things that I included on our general rules, trust but verify all information that is submitted on this call. So thank you, Brad, for bringing this forward. Is there anything else that you would like to contribute or add to this?
If you are in their courtroom, you are under their jurisdiction. The gentleman earlier mentioned the Trading with the Enemy Act. They do not have to accept anything that we bring forward in that courtroom as a 14th Amendment citizen. We can use that is not a room where they practice law. They use case law and they use procedure. So if you think that bringing law into that room is doing yourself any benefit at all, that unless it's to their benefit, they're not going to accept it. So the best way to handle them is to not go in that room at all, and remove your liabilities for the sureties, and ask them if they're going to accept the liability for the use of your trust without your permission. The judge won't even come in the courtroom in front of me anymore.
Okay. Thank you for bringing forth this information and contributing to that. We appreciate it. Nancy, any response? And then Charles, you'll have the floor.
I have had a situation where I did a lot of paperwork several times. The only time that it actually worked for me was when I had a power of attorney in effect, because they could not do anything to me because my power of attorney was not present. Because I didn't have the power to agree to anything, and they didn't have the person that was the power of attorney, in fact, in front of them. Because I gave all my rights, benefits, whatever, over to my power of attorney, in fact. But I do agree.
Rights, benefits, and privileges. And we're having a hard time hearing, Nancy, or I am. For whatever reason, you sound a bit muffled, and you're really contributing some good information. I think Nancy's got really, really good information because she's got real case study and real life instances. And I think that's the best case study, real life. And we're having a hard time hearing her. So this is really something that I really appreciate this conversation. I want to go to Charles right now, and then Nancy, we're going to go back to you, for any feedback, and hopefully we'll hear you better at that time. But Charles, did you have anything that you'd like to add to this discussion?
Yes, thank you, Louis. I think a lot of the remedies proposed by Nancy and Brad are focused on a different issue than that of our forming our own responsibly self-governing communities, like the conference call is dedicated to focusing on here. I think that we've fairly well exhausted Nancy's issues so far. I think there's other people in attendance on the conference that deserve to have some time having their issues dissected in at least equally as much detail as Nancy has been given here. To my first point there about the responsibly self-governing communities. What, maybe I can focus with Brad a little bit here. Brad, what are you going to do in the situation where instead of a judge that does seem to have some kind of functionality of conscience there and actually respected the paperwork that you have filed and either walked off the bench or failed to appear, like you said, what happens when you get a deeper level of corruption and the judges just start saying, we don't care what kind of fake paperwork you're filing. We've got emergency war powers here. This is a military police state, and now we're going to railroad you all, and your paperwork don't work anymore, and you're in a sad situation because you haven't done your homework forming your own responsibly self-governing common law communities. I yield.
Okay. First of all, one of our top priorities that we're working in the Republic is to create these common law communities. We are in the process of building juries, and we have talks all the time about proper training. I heard you mention the name Hartford Van Dyke. I speak with him, or I used to speak with him regularly. We have several of his veterans that are holding some of his public wealth rebate trust banks vouchers, and we are in the process of trying to learn how to get those to be useful, because that is based on a lawsuit against the de facto government that they won't release the funds for. So we are working extensively on just those subjects that you're speaking of. The fact that I have a personal issue that I have chosen to just remove my liability to those bonds that they use to run the court. That's my own personal venture, but I do work extensively with the Republic. And now I am working with William from the Fourth Branch, who is that's the very same party that we spoke about last week, that Lotus Justice belongs to, and we are actually working on something specific along those lines as well, where we can all perhaps start working together, and they have a very large religious group that is close to getting some funding, and their agenda is to put together a stock bank, which everybody that's going to be like-minded to this group is going to have use of. So there's a lot of this talk about the common law communities, and there's a lot of work being done in that manner. With that, I'll yield, and if you have a question, then we'll continue on.
Thank you, Brad. If I may, I appreciate your words of respect for prioritizing the common law community formation there, Brad. But it seemed like the general nuts and bolts remedies that you're currently seeking are consisting of filing paperwork that you're dependent on Roman Empire model government judges to respect. And I didn't hear a clear answer as to what happens if those Roman Empire model judges all of a sudden become so corrupted that they no longer respect your paperwork and all the time and energy that you've been spending in perfecting that paperwork, and you haven't been doing the type of prioritized discussions and focus like we're trying to do in this conference on building our common law communities so that we've got grassroots posse comitatus empowered and recognized to enforce our own jurisdiction's judgments, and we're no longer dependent upon those municipal judicial officers to be the ultimate decision makers as to whether or not righteous and lawful judgments are truly being enforced here. I yield.
No, like I said, I'm also working on common law, and I'm also working on, how we can move this all forward and, have juries and grand juries and the like. So there's, my personal endeavors to, get my own butt out of hot water has really nothing. Some of the people are utilizing some of my stuff to help themselves as well. But again, I will reiterate that a lot of time is, or most of our time is spent working on exactly what you're saying. I mean, on my Tuesday night groups, that is the one thing that we keep repeating is, how are we going to work on this situation or that situation, and they don't care. That's what we always say. They just don't care. So we do need to concentrate on those issues, and we are. And if my own private endeavors seem like that's what I'm touting here for everybody to follow, that's not the case at all. Because I do agree with you that at some point when enough people come forward with remedies that do work, then they're going to just, they're just going to all toughen up, and they're just going to come down on us, and they're not going to let any of that stuff work. And we better have enough people on board that understand how we're going to come together and make all, make this all work for everyone. Because not everybody understands, that what Lewis spoke of earlier, that they did create a public trust for us. They are using it against us, and they're doing the best that they can to keep us all subservient and broke. And so those are the things that we need to go after, because that's where it's all going to wind up. And I do agree. So I yield.
Thank you, Brad. May I?
Charles, go ahead. And I think, was there Abraham that had a comment? And after that, if I may, I would, I'm going to go ahead and jump in line, as I would like to contribute a comment as well. I yield.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brad, for clarifying and even more strongly affirming support of the common law communities organizing. I think it's worthy of emphasis that we're in a quite vulnerable position so long as we don't have our common law communities organized. And my thoughts are becoming more clear to me now. In pursuit of what you're talking about and interacting with the de factos, there's two documents that have been in the email. The four documents, the latter of the four documents that are referenced in the email. The first one is about how to form responsibly self-governing community. There's five there. The second one is how to form self-governing communities, and the fourth one is. Am I talking right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. There's a constructive notice of treason document, which we need to. The de factos are complacent. They're arrogant. The Bible talks about the Babylonian whore. She says she sits as a queen and nobody can touch me. Nobody can harm me. It's like the old criminal untouchables. They don't think they can be touched. because nobody is putting together any kind of confrontational, seriously confrontational paperwork. When the document that's available in the web links in the email there that says constructive notice of treason, that rips that masked charade of legitimacy off of their face and stomps it on the ground and rips it to shreds. Okay, that constructive notice, we got to get in their faces and inform them that they are illegitimate and the people have rights, and we've got the right to form our own responsibly self-governing communities. That's the document number one with treason that everybody here should be sending out to all of the de factos that are messing with them that they knew. The follow-up of that is our right, the formation of responsibly self-governing communities document. That document should also be sent in follow-up shortly thereafter or in the same package to all of these de factos that are messing with us, because that document explains in detail, painful detail, how we the people have the right under the 6th and 7th Amendments and God's laws to form our own responsibly self-governing communities with our 6th and 7th Amendment jury verdicts, to exercise criminal jurisdiction, to arrest anybody that is trespassing and abusing the rights of the people in our local precinct and county jurisdictions, and that includes corrupted public servants that are acting outside of their constitutionally lawful authority. Hereunder, we are claiming power, serious, tangible power, in the face of these de factos, and we can go into legislative assemblies and Supreme Courts and talk to judges and legislators and things and ask them, did you receive these documents? Do you got any objections there too? Do you see any errors in it? And they probably won't want to talk about it. And that means that they have defaulted. And at that point, they're creatures of darkness. They fear the light. When we claim authority in pure common law jurisdiction like this, they will retreat like rats when you turn on the light in a house. They go scurrying for their dark corners. We need to be filing documents like this so that we can take the moral and the legal high ground away from these emergency war powers, fraudulent, treasonous usurpers. I got into a rant there. I should probably yield.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Any comments,
Anybody?
questions, concerns? Anyone?
What he said.
Yeah, when do we get started? Where do I sign?
I'll add to the bravo. I'll add to the bravo by saying ole and touche.
Touche.
Yes, I detect dead air. I might launch into another rant unless somebody grabs the microphone and starts chattering.
Oh, rant away.
Open for discussion for anyone that would have a question for Charles or even a comment. It's about 6:48. We've got about 12 minutes left on this call. So anyone, I mean, again, this is an open floor discussion.
I agree. I agree with almost everything Charles said. The only thing that I would add to that is that the courts, the judges are in various stages of corruption, and I'm finding that the judges are experienced in determining who is going to roll over and give them all the money they want and who's going to fight them. And I've had experiences with doing all kinds of documents, going into court. One court, I got arrested 11 times one day because I was not going to let him get away with it. And I gave out flyers that I was exempt from arrest and the MCL rule and all that. That court eventually disposed one of the tickets. They didn't do anything with the other ticket. The first court I had 5 tickets with, I got all of those disposed. I did the same thing with the first court with the 2 tickets as I did with the second court with the 5 tickets. So the third court, I did all my paperwork. I even paid and still didn't get the tickets taken care of. So you're going to get various results and various things that you do with various judges, because some of them they just cannot be reasoned with. They're not interested in the law. The only thing they're interested is in what they decide. And others will determine how much trouble you're going to create for them. They just dismiss everything right off the bat. I've used their laws against them. I've used private. I've used common. I've even sent them copies of notice of intent to file a claim with the Court of Appeals. They're all different, and it's about how perfected you're going to get at what you're doing.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that information, and I would open the floor for any response to that. Anything that Nancy has mentioned. I think that it really contributes to the argument for the other entities in place, such as the 100 Court, when we're talking about experiences with this administrative court and how they just just run over people in their positions, in their lawlessness. What I hear is that it's a need for something else, because to expect to perfect an argument in their realm that you're going to present against them, that's not, I don't think that that's sensical. Okay, I really don't. We're not about to begin learning some type of statutory procedure or administrative procedure to what they have put in place that is going to gain our desired outcome. I don't see that happening, and I hope that people don't see me as a pessimist because of that. I simply see that it needs to be something else. Their procedures, attempting to learn the thousands of statutes and ordinances, I don't see that as a outcome that is positive for us. And if I'm incorrect in that, and anyone sees anything other than that, I'd like to hear that. So with that, I yield.
May I?
If I may, Scotty.
And who was that first said, if I may, and then I heard a second voice as well?
Scotty, New York.
Okay, after Scotty, New York, was that Charles?
Yes.
Okay, let's go Scotty, New York, and then Charles. Go ahead. I yield.
I heard a man the other night. He's from onevoicenow.org. It's onevoicenow.org. His name is David Frank. He's pretty old. I think he's in his 70s. Boy, I was really amazed by what he offered. It was to vote. I really can't go into it now. Take a look at that. That's like the simple side of what you're saying, to learn their paperwork. Instead of learning, I really can't speak well because I'm a visionary, but I see, if you connect what we're talking about on the call tonight with what he's been trying to do for a very long time, I think for decades.
Well,
Scotty of New York, I would ask that you go ahead and send me any link that you've got to this individual. I do not, at this point, I'll be 100% transparent and say that I do not have the time to search for this man for that you have presented. But if you've got information that you'd like to forward to us that I can distribute to all of the other members or participants of the call, I would do so, and it would be appreciated. Thank you. With that, I yield.
If I may, I also shared a link in the chat from Ken Gogan, Life Force, which is the people for the people. Also could help with Nancy through that paperwork. I think the combination of those three, we really got it in the bed. I did share that link. I'll put the other link in the chat, and Charles can forward it to you and to everybody else. But I'm really impressed with the information covered this evening. It's still absorbing and vibrating in me, but you're really onto some good stuff here, people. I really am proud to be part of this. I yield.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Charles, you've got the floor.
Yeah. I just wanted to briefly mention and follow up to your comment about all the statutes. Our time is too precious to try to memorize all statutes. When you comprehend that the common law and biblical Torah law realm is based on principles, once you learn maybe a dozen important principles or so, then you don't need the thousands and thousands of statutes to review. You know the principles about how to administer justice, and you can argue those principles before any jury that is constitutionally required to decide whether or not your rights are going to be infringed. And so in pure terms of responsible use of our limited time and energy resources, it's much, much, much better use of limited time energy resources to just become familiar with the profoundly enlightened principles of responsibly self-governing as set forth in Anglo-American common law and biblical Torah law. And it's a monstrous waste of time, a black hole that will eat you alive if you give it a chance when you start embarking on studying all those statutes and codes and expecting to be able to find solutions therein. I yield.
Thank you, Charles. Anyone else?
May I?
And you are?
Yeah, this is Mike in Florida.
Go ahead, Mike in Florida. You've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to further elaborate on David Frank, One Voice Now. I would wholeheartedly agree with the former comments made about his concept, his idea. I know him personally. We've met down here in Florida about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And he has a great work. And it's going to take a corporate effort of several of us with our ideas and our efforts in our groups, working in unity. That's the key, working in unity. And that's how the founders did it. They put aside their petty egos and their differences, and they worked toward unification of their power and their strength and their wisdom. And I just wanted to say that. I know David Frank, and I vouch for him wholeheartedly. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Anyone else? Open floor.
Just for clarification, that was onevoicenow.com?
I believe it's .org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Open floor. We have, it's 6:58 right now. Charles, I would yield to you for any last comments as the call was, the recorded portion was scheduled from 5 to 7. And I would yield any last comments to you before we
conclude at least the recorded portion of the call. I yield.
Thank you, Louis. Yes, and to be clear, we do intend to continue on in less formal discussion after the recording is ended here. So people inclined to ride these horses even further, please continue on. But for purposes of the recording here, I think it's really important. It's the general purpose of this conference to empower people in real time, a prioritized agenda, not off at some future date, but right here soon, prioritized to be forming our own responsibly self-governing communities. We had a little exercise here of affirming each other's qualified elector status. We need to build on that, and to for people that have fingers, unlike my brother David Scheid there, that's got additional burdens, to type into a list people that you believe are honorable people that are trustworthy. See, this is about communities of trust, people we can turn our back on without being afraid of getting stabbed in the back. We got to have communities of trust, and each group of people, each individual has different people that he or she trusts than other individuals. But when we start building the overlaps, some of us, a whole bunch of us, trust a lot of a small number of people. But there's others among us that not many people really trust. And as we start building the database of who is standing up and publicly certifying that they trust different people, then these pictures are going to become clear. And a newbie coming in at that stage will be able to say, well, gee whiz, this guy's got 100 people certifying him as a qualified elector. He's probably trustworthy. They can hit the ground running and know who in the group is really a trustworthy person, as opposed to other people that they maybe should have some reservations about. And so I just want to emphasize that we desperately need to build our communities of trust. We have to take away the judicial power from the de facto Roman Empire model judiciary. We have to do that. Unless we do that, as long as they can pretend like they've got the monopoly on the judicial power, we're going to continue to be treated like slaves, and I don't care what kind of paperwork you filed. So please, I just want to emphasize, please work with us, pass the emails around, invite people to attend future conferences, and we're going to have even more documents soon that will help us get traction points to where this can be real world activism. Michael there and his friend John down in Florida, they're doing courageous work confronting the local de factos there, and Louis is doing good work there in Michigan, and a number of us are getting small traction points to where we can start moving forward with this. And it's just kind of the seeds planting stage at this area, but from small acorns grow mighty oaks. And I do believe that we're on the edge of some profound insights that, like the hologram DNA code thing that we've been talking about, once the pattern is realized by enough people, we will achieve a critical mass of numbers of people, the 100th monkey thing, where it'll start taking off and growing like wildfire. So on that note, I guess I yield back to Louis. I yield.
Okay. Thank you very much, Charles. And with that said, that will conclude our call for tonight, or at least the recorded portion of our call for tonight. And we will keep the board open or the platform open for another 30 minutes after. So I appreciate everyone's, and I think I speak for Charles and Abraham when we appreciate everyone's participation on tonight's call. We look forward to the hearing those voices and more on the call next week. So with that, good night all. And then we will conclude the recorded portion, keeping open the floor open for another 30 minutes. Good night.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Louis.
No. Do you see that again?
Okay, it must have stopped at some point. The recording has restarted again. I was saying, I guess we can go into the economics issue that Nancy has raised, and it is an important issue. David Scheid raised that earlier too. I believe the Uniform Commercial Code profoundly decentralizes the economic power. Leroy Schweitzer said that commercial law, the Uniform Commercial Code caused a merger between commercial law and common law, and thereunder common law principles had to be respected in implementing the laws of commerce as practiced under the Uniform Commercial Code. And thereunder, the Uniform Commercial Code provides profound remedy tools, no doubt about it. But our problem is we've got corrupted judicial officers in control of the judicial process that ends up deciding whether or not people are using the UCC in a lawful manner. And unfortunately, those corrupted judicial officers routinely disrespect the Uniform Commercial Code whenever some patriot starts using it to produce remedies against corrupted public servants. So again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it doesn't matter how much good commercial code or commercial process or statutory codes or administrative process or whatever kind of magic tricks paperwork you got, if you don't have people in your community certifying the righteousness of your position, bearing witness on the public record in a court of law to your honorable character and innocence and not guilty of all these malum prohibitum based crimes that are being alleged against us, unless you've got that, you're going to be a hurting puppy. Especially, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the bad guys, Nancy kind of said that maybe the judges are doing some things that are de-escalating and maybe throwing us a few bones here. Well, maybe some interesting things are happening in some courtroom situations. I don't know about all that. But the general theme, what's coming at us with this coronavirus stuff, looks to me like they're locking down a New World Order military police state, and that they've got a big nasty agenda coming at us to make things worse, not better. And that means that we really, 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 really need to get our house in order and start being a responsibly self-governing community. And I need to share my heartfelt frustration with people that start talking about administrative remedies and commercial remedies and things like that, because again, that's all subject to review by Roman Empire municipal jurisdiction judicial officers, and if they decide that we're abusing these processes, they can throw us in jail, and we don't have anybody else organized to stand up and speak out on our behalf. And that's what we need. That's the biblical mandate. It's the mandate of heaven that we form these self-governing communities. This is where our remedy is at, and everything else, even from good-hearted people, I do believe is an illusion. So I just wanted to say that. I yield here. Anybody? Okay, well, it looks like it's kind of slowing down.
All right, so this 100-man court, you have a judicial officer that has 10 justices of the peace, which would be 100 constables, and that would form a common law jurisdiction, a common law court that can usurp or recover the traditional courts.
Thank you, Abraham. The word usurp would not be appropriate there because usurpation is an unlawful action. We would be displacing the de facto government.
And restoring original jurisdiction? Restoring
yes.
correct jurisdiction?
It's only temporary.
What's only temporary?
Yeah, it's
when your action, pardon, the action you're trying to take is only temporary because we don't have a foundation in place yet.
Well, the people don't have a government. People don't have a government of their own. Right.
We're not established yet. We're just bits and pieces of people here and there.
It's been 300 years. We don't have our own courts. How the hell did that happen?
We gave it up.
Why would
we didn't know what we were doing? We didn't know.
We've been lied to.
People come in 1933, 1938. Everything changed.
So these attorneys and these bar mafia members must look at the entire American public like a bunch of children that can't manage their own affairs.
Yeah, yeah. That's what Obama said. And when you're in law school, the first thing they teach you is you cannot use any case law prior to 1938 because they changed everything. The bankruptcy and taking the gold away changed everything. We know we can use law back from the Bible being written forward.
So how hard would it be? How hard would it be to restore our common law jurisdiction to take back what belongs to the people? How hard will it be?
The Bible says you need 10% of the people. Everything that I've looked at talks about 10 this, 10 that, 10 everything. When you're talking court systems, you're talking 3s.
So out of 300 million people, 10% is what, 30,000? No.
No, 3 million.
3 million. So how many we got already? We got 8. Can we get 3 million in the next few weeks?
We're not the only group doing this. I found groups doing this all over. The most unity I've found so far is in black people. Black people are more unified than any group I've ever encountered.
Can you say that again?
Black people are more unified in this than any group I've ever encountered.
Absolutely not. The Jews are 1,000 times more organized than the blacks.
Well, you've got dissension their ring, too. You've got dissension everywhere. The most unity I've found unity in 2 types of groups, the Moors and the black people that are Hebrews.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of convergence there, no doubt. I have a few friends that are Moors. They went the entire process.
And they teach it to their children.
What's that?
They teach this, the Moors teach this to their children. I've met people that are Moors with their kids, and they're teaching it to their kids. We aren't teaching it to our kids because we can't get them to listen. The only time they listen is when they see us accomplish something.
Okay, so we
So
need how
we
many?
have to start a
3 million?
conference.
We need 3 million.
And
So
we need 10%.
so we need that can't include children. It's just adults. So maybe it's 1 million.
Well, there's a definition for infancy and age of majority. That has an effect. Because to do this, you have to reach an age of majority anyway. Just like the Bible, there's an age of majority.
How do you have a phone call with 1 million people on?
You have a whole bunch of phone calls with less than 1 million people on them.
If I
You
may,
have a hard enough time keeping track of 20.
They didn't have mega churches back in Bible days. They had Bible studies in their homes.
That's amazing. You would think it'd be so much easier today with all this technology. If they were able to pull off these revolutions with, just being in a bar, now we've got all this network-centric technology, and it's 1,000 times harder.
That's because we're letting things separate us. The masks is doing a great job at separating people, but on the backside, it's also unifying them because COVID ended on the last day of Passover. Everything after that is fake. My daughter's a nurse. My son-in-law is a paramedic firefighter. We have empty hospitals here in Michigan. My daughter works at the only hospital taking patients. They get $30,000 when they sign a death certificate, and they sign it COVID. So, and they also, when they diagnose you as having COVID, they get $4,000. So, do you see any incentive to be accurately reporting COVID contaminations and COVID deaths?
Yeah, I think everyone on this call is pretty aware with those fudged numbers. I had to go to the emergency room the other day. I was feeling very weak. I went to the emergency room, and right away she said, "You're showing signs of COVID." I looked at her and said, "You got to be kidding me. They're trying to strap me with a COVID diagnosis as I walk into the hospital."
They get money for that. The hospitals are making millions of dollars with 0 patients. They fired 1,200 nurses and doctors from the area, the hospitals in this area. So how are they surviving?
The emergency room that I went into about a week ago, the emergency room, there was not one person in that emergency room. And I've been in emergency rooms at least 20 times in my life. And never have I been in an emergency room at any time where there was not one person. When I went about
you didn't have to wait for hours to see a doctor.
There was not one person in there. Not one person.
Right. My doctor, go ahead.
I think we're straying a bit off subject, and I thought I heard a couple minutes ago somebody else try to get involved in the discussion here, and they might have actually wanted to talk about forming our own responsibly self-governing communities. So can we at least check with the other people that have tried to get in here, and then if nobody else wants to talk about our main issues, then maybe we can go back and start doing storytelling about our experiences with hospitals.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, who was that?
Scotty.
Scotty.
Yeah, the Nancy. You know, Nancy, you sound a lot like Janice Barcelo. My God, you sound exactly like Janice Barcelo. She goes in about what you actually talk. Well, it's actually about the 5G stuff. But I
Who's that?
Comment just a tad little bit about the unity and stuff. You're not including in that the people that are paid and the people that are actually like they have something on, like somebody, they let a court case go away if you do this. So nothing is as it seems with the unity and the voting and the thing. And the other thing I was going to add that Abraham was mentioning, he said some questions, something. The answer is what David Frank presents. Like how you're going to get them to do. You actually made a joke that there's 8 of us here. How many we had to get 1 million? That was a different subject. But when you look at the link that I shared with Charles about David Frank, or you can just look at his website and it explains it. There is a solution to getting people together. They can get together on the phones that already exist in the public stations that already exist all around. However, as far as the unity, you're not including like what was demonstrated in the movie They Live, which turned out to be a documentary, according to the actor and the director before their death. The control, the mind control, comes several different ways. It can be controlled through buying you off. It can be controlled because they have something on you. It can be controlled through drugs and through these technologies that I'm sure you're aware of, which actually the same guy who hosts the show with David Frank, he has a documentary called The 5th of November. And it's just a nursery school introduction to just some of what this technology is capable of. You find a lot more of it if you look at House Resolution 107 from 2001. It's a very short read. You get by the bottom and you'll see the same thing with Cyrus Parsons' lawsuit against Google and all the ABC agencies. You read a little bit of that, and you're going to see the mind control. So how can you get people together when they can control their mind? It doesn't matter if the black... Yes, I agree. Melanated people used to be all together in a great way, but now they're all united, marching around with masks on, which is a violation of the Patriot Act and some other United Nations statute. They can kill you because you're protesting with a mask. It doesn't matter what your governor said, okay? Everybody's being set up. So the problem is the mind control. It comes down to the movie They Live. There's no independent thought. Most people don't know truth from fiction, and they don't know good from evil, and it doesn't matter because they're going to sell out anyway. So that's what we're dealing with. Nobody has the ability to think where even if voting was reliable, and even if the numbers of the hospitals were reliable, it doesn't matter with all the back doors that they have to use you for your vote or for your actions or to use. So we're dealing with things that are in flux. So there is a consciousness that it does take numbers, and that's what's going to change our timelines here in this realm they call it.
Yes.
So we're doing the right thing. We're leading by example, and we just have to keep doing it, and things will work out, okay? It doesn't matter what the numbers say. It doesn't matter who's unified and who's not. There's going to be false advocates. There's going to be people that come into your group to disrupt, and here we're leading by example. Just keep doing what you're doing, people, okay? Don't let the fear get to you. Be a leader. I yield.
Can I make a suggestion? I have found more people in the court that would listen to me than the Bible says you meet the people where they're needed. People need help with their mortgages, help keeping their houses, help with their tickets, help with their court cases. Make up flyers and go stick them on cars at the court and wait for them to call you. I've done it, and I've gotten dozens of calls. But I didn't have a group at that time.
Well, this is why we need to form our own communities, because our communities are the group.
Mm-hmm.
It gets back to the grassroots, and unless our grassroots is organized, we're hurting puppies.
Right. And nobody's going to follow the wounded.
Yeah, well, and the Pied Piper leads a whole lot of people off into the pit of hell. And there's a lot of remedies that do seem to be producing good results for now. But if you look at the nature of those remedies. They're all dependent upon the judicial officers from the Roman Empire civil municipal government not objecting to what we're putting in place. As soon as those corrupted judicial officers start getting so much pressure on them that they start capitulating to the real evil in this world, then all of a sudden our rights are going to be evaporating, and at that point it'll probably be the carnage of our people will be much greater because we haven't done our homework in getting our own responsibly self-governing communities organized. We've been out there dinking around with paperwork trying to cure our status instead of forming our own communities where under our qualified elector status is automatically cured by the testimony of people who know us. That's where our trust communities are being built. We need to build communities of trust, people that trust each other and can work with each other and have respect for each other.
Yep.
Thank you. And I don't mean to raise my voice, but I get frustrated with good-hearted patriots that don't seem to be comprehending that this is a serious war, and the administrative and commercial process that a lot of other people like, and I like Hartford, but it's exclusively focused on the commercial remedy pretty much. And when you push him hard enough, he'll say, okay, well, yeah, the only entity that can retry a commercial default process is a common law jury. De facto judges can't do it, but common law juries can review and override any type of a commercial default process. They have that supreme law declaring jurisdiction authority. And so thereunder, we need to be prioritizing the forming of our own common law juries. The Sixth Amendment, together with the Seventh Amendment, clearly indicates that the right to form our own common law juries and our own courts of law jurisdiction, as the title of this conference, Supreme Court of Law, this right is solid. There's multitudes of opportunities in vacant court offices all across the USA. And this is where our real serious empowerment, long-term empowerment, spiritual warfare empowerment is really at. And with all due respect to all the other good people, the administrative and commercial process remedies that may be producing good results for the time being, they're taking us away from where the real long-term reward is at. And I just get a little bit frustrated with the distractions there. I yield. Maybe I'll go into a little bit of a... Abraham mentioned the 100 courts, I think, and the constables a little bit ago. Is that correct, Abraham?
Yes, I was trying to drive the conversation into what would it take to have, I don't know if the word is confrontation, but how to walk into a courtroom with the proper personnel, common law personnel established in proper jurisdiction and walk into the de facto court and just take it over.
If you have two witnesses with you, it helps in a notary.
Yeah, I would want to have at least 20 guns and 200 people.
No guns.
Well, you're going to be coming up against guns.
Maybe.
I'm sorry. Any courtroom in America will have guns in it, guaranteed. There's no maybe there.
That's the bailiff.
I think the question is whether or not you're going to need them. And I think if we...
I'd rather have it and not need it, and that's just fine by me.
Right, but that's going to escalate the tensions in the courtroom probably, and it might be more diplomatic to not go flashing guns around there when we know that we can win the forum with just words.
Okay, great. I was told that once before, and I got a chain over my head. And I would suggest that if they got guns and you don't, you'll be quickly behind the clinker. Because
Bible says if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
You don't have to use the sword, but you can have it.
They'll see it.
We can't live in fear. There is a time and a place to raise the sword. But okay. That's way different.
Charles, you have your common law assembly, and you've got a complaint, you got a claim against the establishment, and you've got the properly assembled personnel, and they're all de jure. They're all bona fide. They've all submitted their processes and their paperwork, and it's irrefutable. And you're going to march on the courtroom. You're going to march into the room. And you're going to relieve the judge of his command. You're going to relieve the district attorney of his command, and they can either, capitulate and decide if you're willing to throw in with us, or they get arrested and thrown into their own prisons. And me and you have spoke about this many times before. How would you see that happening? Because I have a feeling that's what it comes to.
It's a bit more complex than what you described there, Brother Abraham. The judicial officers that are presently present in the courtroom, for 80-90% of the issues that we're involved with, we don't need to force that judge to get off of the bench. All we have to do is assemble our own juries and try the case that judge might be entangling himself in, and declare our people innocent and not guilty, and thereunder place the jury verdict in front of him and demand that he respect it. But if he doesn't respect it, then at that point, rather than just booting him off the bench, you bring a criminal complaint against him, against the judge, and thereunder you move into the public courtroom that he is presiding over with your own jury, and you just say, well, we're here to try the case, the criminal complaint against you, Mr. Judge, and since you're the defendant here, we need to have somebody else preside to try this case.
Yeah, the analytics of how that would unfold, I am truly fascinated in.
Well, that's where the rubber.
From within.
What did you say, Nancy?
I think it will start from within, just like it did with the Arab wars. We're over there losing our butts off, and American women started talking to Arab women and telling them what it was like here. And the American Arab women got some Arab women in the Middle East to start telling what their husbands were doing and taking the information to the American soldiers and the other soldiers, and you started having wins big time.
Our American military should...
Well, there's stuff going on right now. I'm sorry.
Our American military should not be over there.
Well, I know that. You're absolutely right.
Well, I can't root for the women feeding the information to our soldiers that are over there that shouldn't be over there. That don't sound like a good thing to me.
There's nothing good about over there. It's even worse there than it is here. They don't like what a woman's doing. They rape her and cut her head off in public. And that's where the cops here are beginning to go to. The Detroit Free Press issued a list of the Detroit police that were not authorized to testify in court because they all had criminal offenses against them. There were almost 200 of them. So there's more criminal. True. So whatever is going to start in the court system.
It would be better if it started in our court system, not theirs.
True. But I think what we're doing is going to teach them within their own court system how corrupted they've become.
I think it's bad news to try to be doing strategy within so-called their court system. I think we need to be focused within our own court system.
If you get drugged into court, you don't have a choice. If they take in your house, you don't have a choice. If they arrest you, you don't have a choice.
That's why we need to be forming our own court system now.
True. But we aren't there yet, so...
Who owns...
You're not doing that. I'm doing it. I think Abraham and Ruth are doing it.
Who owns the court buildings? Who owns those buildings?
The public own them. Us. We own them. They're our court buildings.
Okay, so then we just take back our buildings and arrest them. What's so hard about that? All you need is the people.
We gotta bring a criminal complaint against them in our own common law court jurisdiction first. We can't just go in there like a mob. They'll pull out the machine guns and mow us down.
Yep.
We got to follow due process of law.
Yeah, of course, due process of law. What I'm saying is the architecture, the schematic, the diagram, the DNA, the hologram on how that will take place. Nothing is more important than establishing that scenario as quickly as possible.
Agreed. But that's going to require a shift of the discussion away from talking about their courts and talking about our courts.
The most critical velocity that can be sustained. That's the nature of the...
Long term. If you're running a 26-mile marathon, you don't want to sprint your guts out in the first 100 yards.
The Detroit courts are already starting to crumble. And when Rabbi Nasser was here, he prophesied that so goes Detroit, so goes the nation, and that the god of money was going to fall. And Detroit is the first court that I'm seeing all this weird stuff in. The other courts right now are all via TV. So they're falling.
Yeah, what? What did you say?
The courts now are via TV, your phone, internet. So their courts are beginning to fall.
Well, they're just reconfiguring. Courts are just centers to processing. Courts are just centers for processing information.
They're bankers.
The tradition, huh?
They're bankers. All courts are banks.
Well, that's like saying that's an ambiguous statement.
Well, no.
The banks don't control the courts. The courts control the banks. If the courts started ruling righteous... Huh?
The clerk of the court is the head banker for the court. All
I'm sure that's true.
Are dead.
But court clerks have a whole lot of other power besides just controlling finance.
They have more power than the judge.
But they have more power than any banker.
They are bankers. Look it up.
They have more power than bankers. You're focusing on a detail when the larger issue is the profound amount of self-governing power, including economics as one detail of the larger common law jurisdiction that all county clerks have inherently in the nature of their office.
Yeah, but they're corrupted, so that's skewed.
Well, but you were focusing on the economic issue, and my point is that there's much more power in that office than merely the economic issue, like you were erroneously proclaiming.
If it was a court of honor, yes.
No. It's inherent in the office.
Say what?
It's inherent in the office. The office of the county clerk. There's no such thing as corruption of an office. There's only corruption of office holders.
Okay, so the office holders are corrupt to the point they've skewed everything.
Right.
That's how they use it against us. All of these laws were written to protect us, and they turned them around to profit from them. That's the whole Torah. Every law in our courts began in the Torah. Corrupted them to the point that they say good is evil and evil is good.
I don't think you're telling us anything we don't know.
Well, it's not going to... Okay, none of the courts are going to be replaced until we're in place. We're
working on being in place right now and here. It would be nice if we could talk more about that.
Right, but he wanted to know when they were going to come into, when they were going to manifest.
Define they.
I forgot his name. Was it Dave? Wanted to know. I forgot. One of them wanted to know when the courts were going to be. When they were going to change, when we were going to come and replace everything.
When are they going to be restored? Put back to their rightful holders?
Well, the Bible says when the Torah is restored, the courts will be restored. So it's not just about straightening out the courts, it's about straightening out the people that are going to take the positions in the court. Us.
Yes.
If we don't get straightened out, nothing's ever going to get straightened out, because the corrupt don't cure the corrupt.
We already know that. And I don't like to be argumentative.
You were going to tell us about alternate forms of instruments?
Well, there's only a few of us on the conference, and I'd really like to try to entice Michael from Florida to be a little bit more courageous and jump into the discussion here a little bit. He's a really talented fella, and I haven't noticed his phone number until before, and I suppose I could call him personally, but I really hope that maybe we might entice Michael to participate in the discussion a little bit more as long as he's in the conference here with us. Michael, are you still there? Do you have anything you feel comfortable adding about any of the discussion here? I yield.
Yeah. Hey, Charles. Thank you very much for your kind words. Today we had a sad situation occur with our little dog, and we're just kind of being quiet and just listening. We had to take him to the emergency pet veterinarian, and we're waiting to hear back right now. We got attacked by two big Great Danes, and it was a very difficult situation. So we're just kind of recovering from that. It happened just 2 hours ago.
Wow.
So,
Hey, Mike,
yeah.
I have a service dog that comes with me everywhere I go, and I keep 2 canisters of pepper spray and an 18-inch taser with me for just such an occasion.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We were at a house looking at a trailer we were interested in buying, and my fiance walked up to the door with our little Dachshund wiener dog, and the lady opens the door and she's holding a baby Great Dane in her arms, and the mom and the dad were behind her, and they just charged through the door and attacked
Oh
my
my
fiance.
God, that was a perfect recipe.
Yeah, it was So we took the little dog Sparky to the vet, and he's there now, and they're doing surgery on him. So we're just kind of waiting around for a phone call. But I appreciate the call tonight, and I appreciate your efforts, and I'm very intrigued and interested in future calls. And I just know that we've got to figure out a way to work together in harmony and in love, and work a way to create a national voice. And we all have pieces to the puzzle, and this situation didn't occur overnight, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. But I just know that we need to work together, and if we do that with the help of God, we can't help but succeed. And I just am very encouraged by the voices I hear on this call, and the content, and look forward to more.
How did you get into this?
Well, many years ago, I was woke up by 2 professors up at college in Ohio, and one was a history professor, the other was a political science professor, and they began to, God just put me at the right place at the right time, and a praying mother, and I woke up and realized that the New World Order was marching, forward and pounding on our door in America, and I got involved in the middle 80s and began to, attend different meetings and met different people, and just one thing led to another, and a lot of research, a lot of study, a lot of travel. You learn things piece by piece, here a little, there a little. And,
hey, Mike.
30. Yes.
Have you read or listened to Carl Lentz at all?
It seems like I have. I would have to check my research, but I believe I have, but I can't say positively. Anything in particular you're referring to?
Well, he does a lot of talk on travel. He's along the similar genre as Miller. What's his name? Charles Miller? No, Miller. What's his name?
Carl Miller.
Yeah, Carl Miller.
Yeah.
Carl Miller. Yeah, Carl Miller. And
well, I just know that it's going to be very important that we get more people involved, and we've got to figure out a way to find motivated individuals that have been victimized by government, that are motivated and desiring remedy to the situation. And not everyone is at the level that most of us are at on this call. Most that we talk to are going to be far below our level, and we've got to figure out a way to keep their attention, because over the years I have found that people, when they first get involved with this information and this movement, they get overwhelmed very quickly, and they tend to fall by the wayside. And we've got to figure out a way to capture them and keep their interest and not repel them. And I think we need to, seek out groups of people such as, child welfare agency victims. I think the 9/11 crime is another source of finding victims and energy and people motivated. The court system, of course, the legal system. All of these industries have victims, and we've got to figure out a way to corral them and get them all working together in their little perspective niche of their particular victimhood. With lack of better word, that's all I can say is victimhood. But these are the people. I'm sorry?
Mike, I think it's a lot simpler than that. I think you just need a crackerjack squad and go in there and take it back. That's all. A crackerjack squad who knows what they're doing, who's got popular support.
Define a crackerjack squad. I'm sorry.
You know what a crackerjack squad is? People who understand the elemental nature and the equation of the injustice. Doesn't take a genius to figure this out. And who have an understanding, a complete comprehension of the amount of people necessary to compose that crackerjack squad. They understand their positions, just like a football team. They know their positions. They know the huddle. They know the plays. Right? They got the strategies down. Now all they got to do is go in there and do it. That's it. How come you can't find people?
Before you go to war.
Hold on. This problem's going on for how many hundreds of years? How many angles of study do we have? You don't have one competent general go in and take back one courthouse? How retarded are the people?
Before you go to war, you got to count the cost. And it's not one courthouse. It's almost every single one of them.
I understand the nature
and there's
of the problem.
something that I noticed. The lower courts don't operate.
What's your name? The lady speaking?
Nancy.
Nancy. Okay, Nancy. Are you familiar with Sun Tzu, The Art of War?
Yes.
Okay. I'm talking about that kind of comprehensive overview. That kind of a crackerjack squad.
Wait a minute. There's two kinds of courts. There's courts that operate up constitutional laws, and there's courts that don't. A district court or a municipal court only operates off their own law. Judicial courts or federal courts, they operate like a circuit court. They operate off constitutional law. That's why when you're squabbling in a lower court, you get to take it to a higher court because that higher court's operating off of a higher law.
All those courts are in fraud. All of them. Once there's one piece of fraud, the whole thing is fraud.
You need to watch a video that just came out. I'll see if
thousands of thousands of videos. Thousands of them.
I'll see if Lewis can send it to you.
Okay.
The video is about an attorney taking a case for these two houses that were taken for a tax sale. One was for $8.41. They took the house, they kept the money. The law says they have to give back the excess of the tax. So the house sold for something like $80,000, and the tax that was collected was $8.41. So the Michigan Supreme Court said, and he argued common law in the trial, in the hearing. In fact, Judge Bernstein, the Supreme Court Justice Bernstein here in Michigan, argued it to the rest of the Supreme Court. And they said that, I think it was either Oakland or Macomb County stole the house. And so is Wayne County, and they called it a racketeering scheme to steal homes. Now that's the difference between a constitutional court and a lower court. Because the the Michigan Supreme Court remanded the case back to the lower court to correct the verdict. And they even told that judge that he better get it right.
And you're telling me this as an example of how common law has failed when it's been trying to be used in the courts?
The lower courts don't use common law. The higher courts do.
The higher levels of corruption. The higher levels of corruption use the common law. Okay, I get it.
Circuit courts, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, just the United States Supreme or the United States District Court, they use constitutional law. They use common law. The lower courts, these little junk courts where you go for your ticket, they don't use it. They use their own version. If they use commerce, they use admiralty.
Somebody wants to speak in the background. It sounds like somebody far away in New York.
Is this being recorded? You're right. This is worth recording. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay. Abraham, in response to your question about the WHO, did I mention last week about HB 7120 that the police are losing their funding? They're going to get fired. They're going to lose their immunity. There's your candidates of your whatever, your crackerjack squad, whatever. The nurses.
Oh yeah, they've got an axe to grind.
The police. Let me finish. I had about 5 thoughts I wanted to add. I was waiting a while. I didn't know I was muted when I was saying. Anybody.
Say that again. Say that again.
I'll start again. Abraham was asking, where do we get this crackerjack squad? We're going to have, as I mentioned earlier, I did supply some things you have to review, and then we'll talk later. But things are in flux, and things are very, very complex. And everybody out there, except the kind of people on this call, don't know what's what. They don't know who to trust. They don't know. The deal is, the police are getting defunded. It was already done with this HB 7120. The police have the global police force now have carte blanche. Now there's some bad sides too, but the good side is a lot of these police, doesn't matter where they are, they actually don't like doing what they're doing. They have to follow orders, and their hands are tied. That's the only way they know to support their families, and they can't, become, who's that guy from the Bronx? I can't think of his name, Serpico. So very soon and very quickly, you're going to have crackerjack squads available because they woke up the hard way. Like what's going on now with the police is one. They have the same with the military. I see the same thing with nurses and even doctors, natural doctors, homeopaths, and even with the public. And how do you get more? There's 5 levels to this. I'm not good with words. I'm a visionary. But the public have always been suckered in. We're consumers. We're involved in a false corporate structure where we believe a lot of stuff that's not real, like we have a voice, that our vote matters, okay? The deal is you can still get people in as things are in flux at any time because they need free stuff, they need food, free stuff is also the ability to make electricity when they shut it off. It's the ability to make heat when there's no heat, when they shut the gate. So the deal is, as things progress, there's going to be so many people looking and seeing what's going on, like nurses are now, like police are now. They're having people throwing bricks at them when their bosses are telling them to stand down. Everybody's in an uncomfortable situation. So it still comes down to information is power, knowledge is power, and free stuff has always lured them in. Free stuff is how they change. The public stations used to just take donations. They used to just take. Now, because people are consumers, they wind up offering packages, bags, CDs, dinner with a celebrity in order to get these donations. It's the same kind of way we have to get these crackerjack squads. We have to be the leaders that when one guy or 100 people or 100 military, whatever, backfires, they have somewhere to go. So the thing is, we have to prepare for when they're ready. So
That's right.
the answer to where you're going to get your crackerjack spots is the police that lost their immunity. That's where you're going to get them from. That's why I do this. I know what they're going to get. I know a lot I don't know how to say in words. And I'm just trying to help them out. They don't know they're a brother from another mother. They don't know we're all connected to the same ether. They think they're... So the deal is, just keep doing what you're doing, people. It's going to work out. I'm telling you, okay? So we'll continue this more. I'm glad you're recording this. That was a good idea, Abraham. And you're funny.
Do you know how to remove their immunity?
What?
I do. Do you know how to remove a cop's, a prosecuting attorney, a judge's immunity? I do. And I did. The court, I had the 5 tickets in. One of the things I did was the power of attorney. The second thing was I went after the cop that gave me the ticket. I sat in court and I got the names because everybody in court was there for that same cop. I got the names of 10 people, their phone numbers, their addresses, and their emails. 3 of them went in with me to go after the public hazard bond registered at Dun and Bradstreet. You have to have a public hazard bond or a risk assessment bond to be a cop, a firefighter, a prosecuting attorney, a judge, a district attorney, because in case the court gets sued or they get sued, they have to have an insurance policy to pay. So I'm in the middle of this case. I went after the cop. The cop went on Comcast cable TV complaining to the Melvindale city attorney and the mayor that I went after him because the chief of police ordered him to give tickets to people that had done nothing wrong. And he's sitting there reading my suit against him into the court, the city council meeting. And 2 weeks later, my apartment gets broken into. And guess what the only thing they took was? My laptop and my briefcase. But I did get all the tickets disposed because I wrote them a letter and I told them I still had half of the documents I would pick up where I left off. So it works. So go look up Dun and Bradstreet, look up the public hazard bond and the risk assessment bond and the oath of office of the cop, the prosecuting attorney, the judge, the district attorney, and all attorneys. That's how you take their immunity away. Because if you go after the public hazard bond and it gets removed, they can't practice law, they can't sit on the bench, they can't write tickets, they can't sit in a cop car, they can't appear in a courtroom. So you can take the courtroom, you can take the cops away one by one by one by one. All you got to do is sit in the courtroom and get the names of the people there for that cop.
Very good.
And I'll do it again if I have to. And that might be what I have to do to get rid of the third court, and then I have 0 tickets.
If I may?
Yes.
Complaints also. Complaints are by the numbers. You make it.
Oh, yeah.
They're not bondable. It doesn't matter if it's a cop, if it's a bar member. Complaints, bar grievances, they will be uninsurable.
That's right.
They'll wind up raising the insurance of the entire police force because of one dude.
I did.
So they'll have to lose him, and when they lose him, he loses his immunity. Now,
that's right.
In between that they do that to usually for political reasons. And what is politics. Poly means many. And what is a tick? A bloodsucker. We got many bloodsuckers here that are about to lose their immunity, okay? Just hang in there, people. We got to, soon enough, we'll have an audience, okay, that's ready to listen.
Yep.
Okay? Trust me. I yield.
Scotty, would you say that a complaint and a claim are similar?
Yes, same thing. The complaint is to the court. The claim is to Dunn and Bradstreet against the public hazard bond or the risk assessment bond. And the complaint goes against the oath of office, which you take to Dunn and Bradstreet.
Scotty? Hey, Scotty, you there? So would you use complaint in lieu of claim? Are they interchangeable?
No.
Okay.
Do them both together.
Charles, have you bailed out on us?
Hello?
I think Charles fell asleep. He couldn't hang.
No, I'm here. I had my mute on, sorry. But who's got the background noise? Sounds like a river.
Sounds like a train.
Who's got the background noise? Sounds like a fan or something.
Okay.
That's better.
Charles, I'm not going to stop hammering this point, and that is, when will we be ready to walk into a courtroom and do our duty?
Hopefully, we've had similar discussions with Michael before, in that 80-90% probably won't. We can probably achieve remedies just through our paperwork, and we don't need to do a direct confrontation. And the county commissioners are, in essence, the county court, and if we play our cards right and we have our constituency assembled correctly, we can lay the groundwork to take over the county commissioner's office and the county court all at one time and do it mostly through our paperwork.
Yeah.
And of course, we will need to make a presence and confront the county commissioners, which is a much better point of engagement than the judicial officer, because the judicial officers are all clearly de facto, they're Roman Empire, municipal government, provisional, but the county commissioners, they have duties to provide for the county court. Oregon statute says exactly that. And so if we're interacting with the county commissioners and we first of all, we invite them to participate in the county court. And if they refuse to do so, then we just appoint the precinct captains from our own community, and we go in there with enough people to tell them that their services are no longer needed, and we have the county attorney right there talking about the hardball issues involved in this, and the county attorney will either admit that we're right, or else he will turn into a babbling idiot that will be obvious to all of the impartial observers in the courtroom or in the commissioner's room that he's a sock puppet for the evil empire, and he's not there for the people, and he's not speaking true law. And thereunder, we've got clear opportunity to push the envelope to tell those commissioners that they need to either step down or face forcible removal and fine and perhaps even jail for obstructing the will of the people and obstructing justice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we need to be talking about exactly these issues, you guys, because this is where the traction point is. Dun and Bradstreet, I'm sorry.
There's no issue more important than that issue.
Thank you.
Anything else is extraneous.
Yeah.
So many people just don't realize it.
Well. Yeah.
It's Autumn, Maine. Can I say something?
Yes,
Autumn, yes.
I'm actually going to bring this to your attention, and you can look at this if you got your laptops or whatever on right now. Melania Trump's Twitter announcement on July 4th, 2020. It was an uproar because she actually stated she was going to have another celebration later on in the evening. President Trump was signing the Declaration, the birth of America, and the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution and the Declaration. I can't, because I'm not at my laptop right now, but it's 1871. That apparently did take place this 2020. Now, there's a lot of talk, too, about this whole revaluation of currency and things in that nature. And there's, it's also stated there's an invisible war, which includes us. However, I know people, don't want to hear about Q or anything else, but we have always been part of this plan. We are the invisible, too. It's going to come up from us from the bottom to meet in the middle, because whoever are the patriots, whichever people want to choose to believe, they're working on our behalf in their positions now. And with this currency reset, all criminal positions had to resign. They have to, for this currency to be brought in, the gold back. This is every nation. So when we're hearing things like 120 days or 100 days, that's part of this whole GESARA-NESARA agreement worldwide with a gold-back currency in every nation across the planet. But I just wanted people to know on a level that I am, we all look at different, patriot videos and things like that. But our ending president at this time has resigned from the de facto.
Is that right?
Building common law invisibly. But that doesn't mean that we could be separate in some ways, okay, because we're we the people. But we are also being supported from the top down. That's invisible. So some of these things, it is a lot of work for us, and it's pretty much almost too late. It seems that way. But those of us that, swear that oath, it's till death, right? Freedom. So, and we're trying not to have bloodshed. And I'm not in any way wanting to see that either. So I just wanted us to be aware that we have invisible support happening too, even though we are trying to make this right. And how many, per capita, and plus we got our own state constitutions. It's very, very complex about that border crossing stuff, and the states can't come together against them. If we're working with fraudulent documents, then how can all that be imposed, even though we do agree with sovereign rights of each nation state? But there has to be somewhere where the United States of America, where we can bring this, because it's such a corrupt design that when we are educated and knowledgeable with our true documents, should be able to unite in the highest court of the land as the United States sovereign, private people of America. And I don't know how we can do all this with that violation stuff. You know, I'm kind of new. I'm doing a lot of things too in different positions, so it's all very much for us to, you know, have all this information on us, like we have to be scholars at this moment. But I want to thank everybody too, okay, for being part of helping me. I just wanted to say that too, just so we can let a little bit of our weight on our shoulders off, just be aware that there's invisible support coming to meet us.
By him signing the Declaration of Independence, does that reinstate the Constitution?
I believe it probably would. But Melania, I don't know if you checked on it or not. I'm going to go grab my laptop.
I hadn't even heard of that.
Yeah. Are you Nancy or Nikki? Sorry.
Nancy.
Nancy, thank you, because I really appreciate it. And God bless you for what you endure, okay? Really. I mean it. You very impressive.
There have been times I was ready to give up, but I got
Honey,
sick.
you got the spirit, okay? You won't.
Yeah.
I'm standing next to you right now. I can hear that in you.
Well, thank you.
We recognize each other like this, okay? We just do. There's an invisible war, but there's also invisible spirits, too. Good ones.
Yes.
Helping us.
Yep. Absolutely.
But I think that gives us the blood of our natures, you know, even though we got skin, we got the spirit that kind of blends that, okay?
Yeah.
So we can work here on this plane for this moment. But I just try to be a cheerleader. If anything, I'm probably that. People have even told me, I want you right on the front lines with me when we got guns. You know, I have a lot of Patriot sites I follow. I learn a lot of information from different places, and it's very hard sometimes to have discretion, you know. But sometimes I just got to, you know, even though it's a hearsay thing, I had mentioned the Miracle Intel conference calls. You can just go right on Facebook and find that, Miracle Intel, okay? That all of us there, he has 3 calls weekly, 2 weekly, and they're free. And I'm a Patreon for a Friday call, and I just heard it's just wonderful stuff, okay? The hologram and all the things I spoke of last week. I actually was impressed you're talking about hologram DNA stuff, because I didn't even know you were. So when I brought that up with, like, you know, an energy that's protecting us, this hologram, good.
Well, the reason that the DNA is so important is because Satan altered the DNA by bringing the demons in.
By agreeing what?
Satan altered the DNA by bringing demons in to mate with women.
Nancy, correct, honey, correct. You would love this Scott Mowry on Miracle Intel. Remember?
Oh, I've heard of him.
I like it, okay? You're going to very much like him. He brings a lot of stuff in that's kind of silent and invisible, that we won't hear on any other Patriot sites. He was the one
That's what Rabbi Messer. Whoa! That's what Rabbi Messer and Jonathan Kahn do. Wow.
There's apparently something on a top level of science right now that is anyone that would want to purchase this hologram, we are actually Patriot research subjects. And it has to do with, you know, the 5G and all these other things that we know isn't very... I got films. I've even seen that Wheeler guy stand up. He's on a lecture, and he talks about 1G, what it did, 2G, 3G, and he got all the way up. And he said, if you ask me about 5G, run. That's all I'm going to tell you. And that's Wheeler of the FCC, because he's been in chairs of all the tech companies, and he's on the FCC chair. Okay? I mean, I've seen videos that said while we were closed down, the bad guys were going into schools, right, putting in this bad 5G, all the kids have to walk through. But then I
all the schools are being redone here right now.
Well, I heard on a Patriot level, the Patriots are coming in to take that out. So, you know, it's just a very, very questionable world right now. It truly is.
What's
You
the
know?
name of that video? You said Matt Lowry, Miracle something. What was it?
His name is Scott Mallory, and his conference call, you would have to send him an email address, and it's Miracle Intel. You just look it up on, like go to Facebook. He's got a Facebook page and stuff.
How do you spell his last name? Scott what?
Mallory, Mowry.
And what is it called? Oh, Scott Mallory Miracles? Okay.
Miracle Intel. They have, they got a lot of pages there for he seems to have information that's associated from like a military level. Okay? He had to piece it together on this hologram kind of stuff. He could only tell us he has, Sunday calls and Wednesday calls. So, and they're free. But the Friday one is once a month, and that's like for Patreons to pay for that, and you will only get, you get emails. I think I told you last week, too. When you find his email address, I think I gave it to you. It's Scott with 2 T's, M, Michael, like M, and 6975. Let me go check, though, okay, because I got to run to my laptop while I'm talking to you. I'm going to make sure I give you the right address. All right, he seemed to have, it's Scott M. 6975, and he changed it to @Mac. MAC.com.
Right.
Now that would go to him as an email, and all you need to do, but you got to give him your name. Remember I told you that? Put your first and last name in the body. But on the subject line, just put subscribe. You will receive his emails when he gets your request. You'll receive newsletters that'll let you know what time it is in your area, time zone and stuff. Just put subscribe in the subject title. And then if you just want to, say a little, hello, my name is this, and thank you, I'm looking forward to your newsletters. And your first and last name, because, see, he's getting hit with bots and stuff, just like, this stuff going on tonight with the voice thing coming on and off. It's just strange stuff with these conference calls happening, too. Because, Scott, actually, we've been disconnected. A lot of people can't use cell phones to call in. See, I got a wall phone and a cell phone. But I knew this time would come and this, smart, and we're all kind of stupid, and it would take us over. So I kept my wall plug for my home line because I just felt it. I knew it. So do you need to, anybody listening need to ask me again to repeat something? Like the address?
Sounds like he was involved with the dinar for a while.
Was he? Yeah. See, he has a Q&A just like we are right now. Kind of. Well, it's not called Q&A. Well, it is. But at the end of his shows, they're lengthy too. And I mean, you'll like them. And thank God he's got replay numbers too. Okay? Because I know we all are doing different things with different groups and conference calls, and it's hard to, miss one or go to one and not the other. But he's got the replay number, so they'll be available each week, like from Sunday to Sunday, Wednesday to Wednesday, because they have 2 different call-in numbers. So if you can't, and it's 24/7, so you'll be able to listen and not miss it, even if you can't be live. He actually, what I heard is people that did, go to this magicalwaves.org, I think, to get that hologram. It's $150 each one. But they're supposedly, because this is all research. Now, what I'm thinking is like mining, just like we use herbs and essential oils and stuff. I do believe they're using some kind of mining, like earth stuff, and creating these, like a pendant. I'm going to call it a pendant, but they call it a hologram. And it's the size of like a quarter, what he explained in a couple calls, because he was only letting a little bit of information out each time. But it's apparently, I didn't think I had enough time to tell you last time. And I'm sorry I'm off subject right now, Charles. But this product that we would get, when it's coming in the mail, some of the callers have, because the mail has slowed down too, everyone. You know that. I hope you do. If you're ordering things online, it's going to take a while. Okay? There has been some guns. UPS, 5 people in Texas, I think it was the state. They actually got them stealing guns from customers that got guns coming in the mail. And they let them go because because they didn't sell them. They just gave them away. This is like really strange stuff I'm hearing. But in this regard to this hologram, and there must be something in the USPS or whatever, however many spies they got everywhere watching us. And this hologram is supposed to protect us from, like, to keep that COVID, because it's supposed to be connected with the 5G, okay? And they actually did, on another program I was watching, it said that the places with the most deaths and victims of this virus were actually states that had their biggest antennas or towers or whatever it is. Remember that? Like a couple years ago, New Yorkers woke up by that subway station, that big tower they put up. Did you remember that a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, and I actually watched the video because I was, interested. Like, yeah, what is that thing? It was huge. Apparently, that was supposed to be Homeland Security. That came without the state, without no town counselors or select people in New York that knew anything about it. At least they were claiming they didn't. Because reporters came in, people probably like us with their cell phones and filming, and they just barged in on that meeting. And they asked these New York councilmen, what are these towers? And they're like, we don't, they got up like kind of like, they were all standish, and they were like, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that interview. They were more like 8-foot high obelisks.
Yeah, it was huge.
And they had it right before the Lincoln Tunnel.
Yeah.
And nobody knew what the hell they were for. They just popped in overnight.
And they said they were claiming that it was due to terrorism, to be able to track terrorists in the subway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So this hologram, anyway, that Scott, mentioned maybe 3 weeks now it's been, and he's been saying a little bit more about them on the calls prior.
I think you're talking about the things you put on your cell phone and stuff.
He actually, I don't see, people got confused with that, Nancy. They actually thought that, like put it on the cell phone because I'm protecting those bad waves, okay? He said no, it has nothing to do with your cell phone. And probably Scott might have said that because he just knows people carry their cell phone everywhere they go, and it would be something that would remind them to keep it with them. So apparently this hologram, what he explained with the technology of it, he didn't say what it was made from or anything because that's probably proprietary stuff. But
Walmart employees are wearing them. I was in Walmart. I was checking out. I looked up at the monitor, and there's all these yellow squares. And the only one
that
had
you're seeing a picture? You found it?
I saw no. I'm in Walmart. I'm checking out. I look up on the monitor, and there are yellow squares on all of the customers, but none of the Walmart employees have the yellow squares on them. And then I noticed that one of the Walmart employees had a watch with a thing that looked like an atomic symbol on it. And it was exactly like the one that my friend gave me to put on my cell phone.
Really?
Yes. But none of the Walmart employees were showing up with yellow squares on the monitor. And I even took a picture of the monitor.
Wow, Nancy, thanks for this first time I've heard something like this, what you're saying, but thank you. I
couldn't read what I was seeing. And the reason we stand 6 feet apart is because your cell phone can track within 6 feet of where you're standing. I had that in my criminal justice class, that that's how the cops know, because they go on your Facebook and then they track it to your cell phone number. They send something to it, and then they know which person goes with that Facebook thing so that they get the right one. And it will it will do within 6 feet of you.
Right. You know the biggest
So
ammunition we would have right now as consumers to this whole smart stuff, even though we love our mobile abilities and things, if
throw our
we
phones away or put something on
threw
them
our
where they
cell
can't-
phones away and just wired our internet connection, it would end their power. Do you understand
Yeah, how
this?
do
This
we
is our
do that?
greatest power in Americans that people just want to let go of, right? Some people,
Yeah,
I don't care if it radiates me. I'm not getting rid of my smartphone. I don't own a smartphone. I got a flip top. I don't have no data, none of that stuff. They can't track me. But I own a vehicle that's got that chip in it to hook in and stuff. And God knows how I can turn it off or whatever. They told me at the Ford dealership, oh, geez, that's going to be expensive and all. You can't turn that off. I'm like, oh, my God.
That's what
So this hologram that we could purchase off of that Magical Waves, HTTPS, use that, HTTPS magicalwaves.org or com. But when I went there, it only just goes to like this purchase page, okay? It's not like this big advertisement or telling you anything about it, because I think that it was not many people know, because this is research. This is supposed to be the good guys that develop something for us, and we will be patriot research subjects. They're actually going to go bigger after they acquire some information, probably from, I don't know if people are going to be delivered questionnaires and things. I don't know. But people, it's a long time getting this shipped to them, because they've been calling Scott, and they're like, I haven't got it. Why haven't I got it? And Scott said on Friday night's call that, and this is a paid call, so not everybody, it's not free. So I heard, and Scott said that people have been calling him when they did receive their hologram, that it was opened and pieces of it were taken off of it. So Scott is under the impression that our mail, like the guns, guys, the UPS stuff I just said, these people working for the Postal Service and stuff, they're not just postal people, okay? They're looking for certain things. Us consumers or patriots are getting, and they're interrupting it. Yeah. So the capacity of this it's supposed to be the size of a quarter. That's all Scott said about it. That's all he said for a description. So, and nobody has called in and said anything else, right, that I hear people talking. He probably won't let them. It's probably, private. They don't want them to steal our ability to protect ourselves. So with that being said, he said when we have this on our person, anybody in a 25-foot radius of us is going to be in our hologram. They're going to be protected as well, okay? So he mentioned things like when you get in your car and stuff with your hologram with you, your car, if you were having troubles like not running well, or Scott said people reported that their cars were getting better gas mileage and just running better with that hologram on them. Now, he did say this doesn't, it don't heal you from sicknesses. It's not like you're carrying this and, anything wrong with you is healed. He's trying to make people not to, misconstrue that. He said if you already have the virus, it's not going to stop that. But it's going to prevent these sequences, the cellular, whatever it is, because and really, I know a lot of things is far out there. I could just go on and on to things I watch and read, and I'm sure you guys and girls can too. But, I have never given a second guess because I've been involved in 5G. I'm gagged. Do you understand? I won something. I'm gagged. Okay, so I understand things. I've met a producer of this from Canada at the same time I was having troubles and fighting my utility company. I don't have a smart meter because I'm gagged. Okay? So I met him. I've got the lead plaintiff in my state of Maine, the first ever case to go before the Supreme Court in the state to weigh it was like privacy issues and stuff. It didn't really go into the case of damages. But he brought people, scientists, these guys from like Switzerland and, all over there, UK, all those good professional professors of science, of pediatrics and stuff. They came over to testify on my lead plaintiff's pocket. okay? So he calls that, like me, I don't have a smart meter, so I got to pay this extortive fee, right? I got to pay $16. I'll just round it off because it started out at $14, it went up to $15, and it's like $15.78 or something like that a month now because I don't have the smart meter. They make us pay. So my lead plaintiff wrote to the Attorney General and complained and said that this is an extortive fee from a corporation because we're trying to prevent injury to our bodies, and you are extorting us, charging us, making us, bribing us, extorting, having to pay a fee to not be harmed. Okay, so it, of course, didn't go there because the Supreme Court in the original case, when he was just trying to get to the point how dangerous they were and stuff, but it went to the Supreme Court where their hands are bound when it's a law, right? The FCC says these levels, but these are in non-ionizing levels versus ionizing levels, and they're using the old antique safety limits for energy they know nothing about. This is what is the problem, and the judges can't rule not in favor of a law, okay? I mean, the FCCs are challenged so hard all the time. You know, small cases are being won, too. You know, there was moratoriums for a while here in Maine, and they won for a while. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of interruptions, okay? As a matter of fact, the police forces and 911s, they were refusing because they said it was malfunctioning their 911 services when those meters were coming. Okay? It did a lot home, and thank God I got gagged, but you know what? It means I championed it. And,
so
you know, I pay that fee. There's my lead plaintiff here now. I know him personally. He hasn't paid that fee, and they took his meter off. They won't give him power now. He had the mechanical meter. Yeah, he has had no power from our utility. He's fighting them.
He can go to
and he had cancer too.
Oh, geez.
He has the letter from the doctor that validated that would harm him. They won't move. And that's because he's fighting not paying this fee for the mechanical.
I can't get anything that's not following to come up.
If you ever want to look at that, it's mainstopsmartmeters.org. There's a lot of information there.
With the magical waves, I can't get that or the Scott Mowry to come up.
You know what, Nancy? You got to do the HTTPS? Do that, because I actually called Scott, and I'm like, I have tried everything. I used DuckDuckGo, Brave, all of that, and I can't get it to come up. He gave me it with the HTTPS. You got to do that to search it. And I only have just a order page pop up. It don't tell you anything about it. See, this is probably, highly protected right now, okay? Because it's research. Anybody buying that, we are actually research studies. Because biological wars are getting serious. And even though I've also heard, remember lead paint in the 80s, and it's deadly, it causes cancer. They feel that they push that so hard because you know what this 5G or any of these smart waves can't get through? Lead. So there's no lead paint on no buildings anymore, and has been for a while. And if it is, it's just sneaking by and they're quiet. But a lot of people that are anti, this, that don't have computers or microwaves or any of that, they're like, that's why they took the lead paint and banned it, because they had that agenda, no matter how many years it takes them to get to so many conditions.
Liquid kelp does it too. Liquid kelp does the same thing. It blocks the radiation, the lead, a bunch of other stuff.
Oh, you found it?
No, I have a friend that's an herbologist, and here's what it says when I have it. It says TLS 1.0, comma, TLS 1.1, comma, and TLS 1, It says turn these on in advanced settings and try your connection again. What the heck? Let me see if I can get something under.
It took me everything I had to try to get that page. I have the link from Scott in an email. That's the only thing I was able to load that Magical Waves page with. And it only takes you to an order page. It doesn't let you, it doesn't advertise or tell you anything about it. So I can guarantee it like a closed study, scientific for patriots. There's a lot more evil, nefarious things coming invisible at us, I think, and I think the patriots are trying to protect us and then get mass producing it. Because apparently this first stage, whatever they get out of this, because I don't have that hologram, I want you guys to know. If I did, I'd be able to tell you more.
I don't have any internet.
Oh, you don't?
No, my internet's gone out.
See, a lot of people all across Maine have been losing theirs. My neighbor, I live on a private drive, like 200 yards from the road, and my neighbors have called me, and they're like, Autumn, you got internet? And it's through Comcast. They didn't have it. I didn't when I looked and plugged my tower in. And I'm like, nope. But then it come right on, and I let them know. And they said they called Comcast, and they said that it would be out until like 5 p.m., and this was like 9 in the morning that hers went out. I talked to my brother last night, 2 days ago. He's like 45 miles away from me. He said he lost his internet. They said it was an outage. So I don't know if it's like the Patriot good guys getting testing stuff for that dark to light stuff that Q talks about, how everything's going to go down. And then we're only going to get like, executive news. We're not going to get the fake news. We're going to, if that does happen, I'm just saying that's been professed that it can occur when these arrests. I'm hearing that, they keep saying August is a very hot month. And I also just saw on guy that died, that Kane guy, that Lewis Kane, everybody loves him and thinks he's a great patriot. I saw things that connects him to, he used to own a place called Godfather Pizza, and we know what that pizza
John Lewis?
Yeah, John Lewis, that politician that just died, they said of the virus, but he's had 4-stage cancer that he had been battling. Yeah, it's a bit,
I just thought it would come up. Let's see what's coming.
A conservative, okay? Kane.
His
last name is Kane.
You have to do it under Yahoo. It won't come up under Google, but I got it under Yahoo.
Oh, did you? Good. Wow, see, they're fighting people finding that out.
From quantum physics.
So we know now.
You know what this is for? This is protecting around. So you've got a molecular structure around your body. It's like a force field, only it's not a force field.
I see people's auras and stuff and lights.
Yeah,
and
it's
things.
something like that. But that little disc interferes with the stuff that they send out. Like they send a certain signal when they want people to fight.
Right, Nancy. Yes.